Chapter 150. Suddenly, Nian Bing's body trembled, and the blurry image in front of his eyes became clear. Through the Tian Yin acupoint, he saw himself completely condensed from starlight. While he was still in shock, the Xiantian Qi that he had absorbed during this period of time suddenly started to separate from his body. Even the Xiantian Qi that he had just absorbed was no exception. Nian Bing was shocked. Just as he was about to release himself from this strange realm, he discovered that his spiritual energy was actually firmly sealed in the Tian Yin acupoint. He had temporarily lost control of his body, and even if he wanted to call for Oscar's help through the spirit rose, he was unable to do so. The Xiantian Qi crazily gushed out, causing Nian Bing to feel as if he was being sucked dry. His body's Qi was constantly weakening, and the strange feeling from the Xiantian realm was completely gone. But what was even stranger was that Oscar, who was absorbing the essence of heaven and earth, did not seem to notice Nian Bing's current situation. The magic in Nian Bing's body was also not affected by the Xiantian Qi being sucked out, and it was still circulating naturally as usual. Along with the Xiantian Qi leaving his body, Nian Bing's own Qi also left his body. The feeling of suffocation constantly came, and Nian Bing only felt that his body was alternating between hot and cold, as if he had returned to the first time he was buried deep underground. However, this time, the feeling was even more intense. The extreme cold and extreme heat caused illusions to appear in his mind. But the strange thing was that his mind was not clear at this time. Through the Tian Yin acupoint, he could still see himself condensed from starlight. That body formed from starlight, except for the white light of the crescent moon that was gradually condensing on his chest. The rest of the body was golden. The faint golden light emitted a gentle light, and under the observation of the Tian Yin acupoint, it appeared even clearer. The Xiantian Qi that was being sucked out of his body turned into streaks of white light and merged into the body formed from starlight. When the white Xiantian Qi came into contact with the body formed from starlight, the white Xiantian Qi started to burn. The white Xiantian Qi was actually refined, and the refined Xiantian Qi turned into an even smaller golden stream that directly merged into the body formed from starlight. As the aura in his body became thinner and thinner, Nian Bing's spiritual power was greatly stimulated. All kinds of colors kept flashing in front of his eyes. He desperately tried to control his spiritual power to rush out of the Tian Yin acupoint, but the Tian Yin acupoint was like a solid cage that forbade his spiritual power. It was as if there was a solid drill around his celestial eye acupoint. The intense pain caused Nian Bing's spiritual energy to fluctuate continuously. However, the light in his celestial eye acupoint became clearer as his spiritual energy churned due to the pain. Nian Bing did not understand what was going on. He had lost the ability to think. All of his spiritual energy was fighting against the intense pain. He tried his best to condense his spiritual energy into a single point and continuously attacked his Tian Yin acupoint. He was trying to regain control of his body. He had gone through so many hardships to achieve what he had today. He did not want to lose everything because of Qi deviation. However, the firmness of the Tian Yin acupoint was far beyond Nian Bing's estimation. The surrounding white misty space made him feel as if he had returned to the time when his soul was separated from his body. But even at that time, it was not as painful as this. The purgatory-like situation almost drove Nian Bing crazy. If it was not for his perseverance cultivated since childhood, he probably would not have been able to withstand such intense pain. Finally, the last trace of aura in his body left Nian Bing. In that instant, the pain in Nian Bing's body instantly rose to the peak. His spiritual power seemed to explode, rushing to every corner of the Tian Yin acupoint in the intense pain. However, the spiritual power met with a strong resistance. The spiritual power that suddenly burst out rushed back at an even faster speed, condensing into a single point in the middle of the Tian Yin acupoint. Nian Bing only felt a loud bang in his spiritual world. Then, his consciousness fell into a temporary blank. Although he was unconscious, Nianbing subconsciously felt very comfortable. It wasn't because he was really comfortable, but because he couldn't feel the pain of the illness in such a short period of time. Being freed from the intense pain was a comfortable thing in and of itself. After the previous suffering, Nianbing did not even want to regain consciousness now. At least this way, he would not be in pain anymore. However, the loss of consciousness only lasted for a short few seconds. He once again saw everything in the outside world through the Tian Yin acupoint. He was surprised to find that everything outside through the Tian Yin acupoint was clearer than before. As long as he willed it, his spiritual power seemed to be able to surge out from the Tian Yin acupoint. Focusing on his inner vision, something even more surprising happened. The spiritual power that was originally in the Tian Yin acupoint had now turned into a small person that was only an inch tall. Its arms were spread out to the sides, and its body was floating vertically in the white sea of the Tian Yin acupoint. That small person in the form of energy, was it not him? With a thought, the small golden person that was condensed from spiritual power raised its right arm. What was strange was that Nianbing also raised his right arm. There was no gap at all. The movements of the spiritual power and the physical body were completely the same. With a flash of inspiration, Nianbing faintly understood that his spiritual power had entered another realm. The ability of the Tian Yin acupoint had obviously improved. Every single person, no matter how one controlled one's body, there would always be a short gap between the reaction of the body and the spiritual power. Although this gap was negligible for ordinary people, it was extremely important for a magician or warrior, especially when controlling magic and Do Qi. A small gap could produce a different effect. Nianbing faintly felt that what he understood was only the surface. This small person that was condensed from spiritual power was not so simple. The pain had already disappeared, and Nianbing became much calmer. There was still no aura in his body, but he discovered that he did not feel any discomfort. It was as if his body no longer belonged to him. Focusing on his outer vision, he once again saw everything outside through the Tian Yin acupoint. The person that was formed from starlight was still floating in the sea of silence. However, at this time, the gap between the starlight had disappeared, and the white light condensed from the crescent moon had turned into a white dot. Looking at the white dot below his chest, Nianbing suddenly had a strange feeling. He thought of something, but he could not clearly remember it. He only felt that the position of the white dot was very strange, as if it had some important connection with his cultivation. Just as Nianbing was thinking about everything that was happening in front of him, the golden figure suddenly became bigger and bigger. When he focused, he discovered that it was not that the figure became bigger, but that it seemed to be closer to him. Suddenly, the golden figure sped up. Without waiting for Nianbing to react, he suddenly felt a boom. His body felt as if it was flying. An enormous amount of Xiantian qi that he had never felt before rushed into his body, like rivers flowing into the sea. Oscar's gray energy that was originally scattered in Nianbing's body was actually forced back to his heart by the sudden influx of Xiantian qi. Nianbing's body had completely turned into a golden world. A cool feeling came from the Tian Yin acupoint between his eyebrows. Nianbing watched as a white dot of light entered his body and quickly sank. In the blink of an eye, it had already broken through the encirclement of the Tian Yin acupoint and sank into his body. Nianbing wanted to ask if Oscar had been harmed, but he realized that, after his spiritual power had changed into a new form, although he could control his own body again, he was still unable to contact Oscar. The light flickered, and the white dot of light quickly sank to the same position that Nianbing saw Shengxian's body. It was just a little below his chest. The moment the white light stopped, the Xiantian qi that was crazily rushing into Nianbing's body seemed to have found a vent and crazily rushed towards that milky white dot. Nianbing could clearly feel that his chest was being pressed down by a huge mountain, making it hard for him to breathe. The Xiantian qi was simply too enormous. He did not know where this Xiantian qi came from, but he realized that this Xiantian qi did not conflict with his body at all. That milky white that was like an endless void. No matter how much Xiantian qi rushed in, it could crazily absorb it. Suddenly, Nian Bing thought of something. He finally understood where this wonderful feeling came from. Ecstasy instantly filled his spiritual world, and he could not help but sigh in his heart. My character is really good. Even this can happen. The enormous pressure no longer made him feel uncomfortable. Nian Bing concentrated all of his spiritual power, urging his magical power to circulate faster, resisting the enormous pressure. The bones in his chest seemed to be struggling, making creaking sounds. Nian Bing's heart was cheering. The enormous Xiantian qi could no longer cause any psychological burden to him. He was now afraid that the Xiantian qi would not be enough. He secretly thought to himself, let the storm come more fiercely. The Xiantian qi seemed to have heard Nian Bing's call. The speed of the Xiantian qi rushing in increased, and the pressure was also greater. Although Nian Bing's magical power could provide some relief, his body was still constantly trembling on the roof. If someone could see him at this moment, they would definitely be able to see it clearly. He discovered that there was actually a golden sun in front of Nian Bing's chest. It was flickering with faint light. Nian Bing was waiting for that moment to come. Because of the enormous pressure, every single one of his pores was oozing with blood. In fact, he did not know that he was in a very dangerous stage at this time. If an ordinary person wanted to break through to the realm he was about to break through, they would need at least 50 years of cultivation. Not only would they need to strengthen their body, but they would also need to strengthen their spiritual power. But by chance, he received the help of the time. Under the effect of the Tianyin acupoint, he had the ability to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. That was the purest Xiantian qi. But if he was just an ordinary person, the sudden appearance of the enormous Xiantian qi would definitely tear his body to pieces. Not to mention increasing his strength. Even keeping his life would have become an impossible task. Perhaps it was really like what Nian Bing had imagined. His character was too good. Back then, in order to protect the 7 Dragon Kings, he had almost lost his life. That was why he had fused with Oscar's dragon soul, completely transforming his weak human body, giving him the physique of a dragon. That was why he was able to withstand the impact of the Xiantian qi and not collapse. At the same time, the evolution of the Tianyin acupoint also gave him enough spiritual power to withstand the impact of the Xiantian qi. It allowed him to work hard in a sober state to mobilize his magical power to support his body. At this time, what the Tianyin acupoint could see was a golden ocean, and what it could feel was an enormous amount of Xiantian qi. Nian Bing's bones were trembling, and the veins in his body were twisting. The blood in his body had even stopped flowing. That enormous amount of Xiantian qi was still crazily rushing towards the flickering white light, dyeing it gold. Finally, when Nian Bing's strong spiritual power was about to be unable to withstand the enormous pressure, the Xiantian qi that was madly rushing into his body began to weaken. However, the pressure on his chest did not decrease, but instead increased. Nian Bing's body shrank in pain, and the remaining Xiantian qi revolved around his body, turning into a sharp cone and violently rushing toward his chest for the last time. Ka! The sound of glass breaking rang out, and Nian Bing's body suddenly stopped. The golden sun in front of his chest went through the process of turning from gold to white, and then from white to gold. Nian Bing's body suddenly floated up from the roof, and with a bang, the golden light scattered in all directions. The light emitted by the stars and the moon in the sky seemed to have weakened by a lot at this moment, and the golden light emitted by Nian Bing's body was blocked by a layer of 7-colored light. His horizontal body gradually stood up and slowly landed on the roof. His eyes that had been closed all this time slowly opened, and 2 rays of golden light shot out from his azure eyes. The Tianyin acupoint in the middle of his brows actually became an eye, a silver eye, and the purple pupil in the silver eye flashed with a demonic light. At this time, the clothes on his chest had completely disappeared, and 1.5 inches below his chest, a golden sun the size of a fist was gradually shrinking, until it was the size of a fingernail. However, in the place where it had previously shrunk, strange spiral-like patterns were left, and those patterns were like the light emitted by the sun, faintly shining. Nian Bing's chest muscles were enveloped in a layer of golden light, and with a flash, a ray of golden light shot out. The golden light continuously solidified in the air, and when it shot out 10 feet, it had already become as thick as a needle. This golden needle-like energy pierced through all obstacles, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared. The combined light in Nian Bing's eyes gradually weakened, and the combined light of the sun on his chest also dimmed a lot. The Tian Yin acupoint in the middle of his brows slowly closed, and in the end, only a bean-sized silver light spot was left. He smiled, and that was a smile of excitement that came from the bottom of his heart. He had succeeded. He had actually succeeded. As one of the 7 most mysterious acupoints in the human body, he had actually opened the second one in such a short time, and that was the Li Zhong acupoint. When Fatso had described the positions of the 7 acupoints to him, he had said that the Li Zhong acupoint was located in the middle of the thoracic vertebrae. Nian Bing was completely sure that he had actually managed to open 2 acupoints under a miraculous situation. He did not know how much progress he had made, but he was also not worried. What did it mean to open 2 acupoints? Nian Bing's smile became even wider, because at this time, he thought of the ice goddess priest, who was known as the only god descending master on the continent. Didn't he only open 2 acupoints? Even compared to the continent of gods, those ordinary gods would probably not be able to open 2 acupoints. In a certain sense, could he also be considered a god? In the cold mountain range, the Dragon King who were cultivating together opened their eyes at the same time. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment, and among them, the light Dragon King Demanteti's expression was the most obvious. Did you all feel it too? Demanteti asked tentatively. Katerios nodded and said, "Yes, I felt it. That is our child. My feeling is very clear." Demanteti said with some worry, "I don't know if I should be happy or worried." Space Dragon King Kadires laughed mischievously and said, "Of course you should be happy. To be able to produce energy fluctuations that startled us, the little freak you gave birth to must have made huge progress. Who knows, maybe he's already about to start his second evolution." Katerios' eyes flashed, and he coldly snorted, "Caudilus, watch your words. If I hear you call our child a freak one more time, I will challenge you in the name of the Dark Dragon King." The smile on Caudilus' face suddenly froze, and he hurriedly shook his hand, saying, "Boss, I was just joking." However, according to the time, even if Oscar had some fortuitous encounter, it won't be so easy for him to evolve a second time. But just now, I clearly felt that there was a huge change in his energy. What's the reason for this? Demanteti said with a wry smile. Kaka's situation is very special. Not to mention us. I'm afraid that even the Dragon God Sama may not know what's going on. An increase in energy is always a good thing. He is with Nian Bing and Garamandes by his side. There should be no problem. How could she know that Garamandes was not with Nian Bing at this time and was working hard for his lifelong happiness? Katerios nodded and said, "There shouldn't be any problem. Well, let's continue with our cultivation. I think Garamandes will be back soon. He will inform us about the situation on their side." The 6 Dragon Kings closed their eyes again and continued with their cultivation. These days, the one with the greatest progress was undoubtedly the Dark Dragon King who had obtained the Dragon King's Heart Sutra. Relying on his formidable strength that had always surpassed all the other Dragon Kings, he had cultivated the Dragon God's Heart Sutra to the 2nd level. Previously, he had felt Oscar's energy fluctuations the most. At the same time, he was surprised to find that his own energy fluctuations were similar to his own. The energy fluctuations produced by his son were actually very similar to his own to a certain extent. It seemed to be a kind of calling energy, and he vaguely felt something. But he couldn't be sure. Even if he was sure, he didn't know whether to voice his doubts. After all, that was his son. If he really was, Kaka, are you all right? As soon as the energy in Yin Bing's body stabilized, she immediately called out to Oscar. Oscar's voice was not as emotional as before. He said calmly, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Nian Bing said with some worry, "We lost contact just now, and that Xiantian Qi was so huge. Did it really not affect you?" Oscar's voice carried a hint of a smile, making Nian Bing feel relieved. "It affected me, of course it did. But if it could affect me more often, I would be very happy." "Nian Bing, I really don't know what kind of human you are. How can you encounter all the good things? However, this is not entirely a good thing. If it weren't for me, I'm afraid you would have been finished." Nian Bing didn't understand what had happened to her. Hearing Oscar's words, she hurriedly asked, "What happened just now?" "My spiritual power underwent a great change, and my body also seemed to have broken through another aperture point. I don't know if I'm right." "Yes, of course you're right. The knowledge I obtained from my father's memories tells me that you just broke through one of the 7 apertures of the human race, the Li Zhong aperture. This aperture is very useful. But do you know how dangerous it was just now? Such a huge amount of Xiantian Qi suddenly appeared. You can't bear it. Even if your body has been transformed by me, and its toughness is no less than that of an ordinary dragon, you can't bear that Xiantian Qi from inside out." Nian Bing's heart moved. She said, "Was it you who protected me?" Oscar smiled and said, "Of course it was me. We are using the same body. If you were finished, wouldn't I be finished with you? I don't really understand how you did it, but it seems that the Xiantian Qi in your body has reached a certain level. In that special situation, just now, it triggered the purest Xiantian Qi between heaven and earth through the Tian Yin aperture. With the essence of the stars and moon as a guide, it entered your body, causing such a change. It is extremely difficult to break through every aperture point in the human body. Your opening of the Tian Yin aperture was probably due to luck. As for the Li Zhong aperture, it requires an extremely large amount of energy to successfully break through. But you suddenly absorbed enough Xiantian Qi to open the Li Zhong aperture. If it weren't for my protection, it would be strange if you didn't die. Now that you've succeeded, even I have benefited a lot. That Xiantian Qi just now was really pure. The essence of the sun and moon was simply too wonderful. After the energy broke through your Li Zhong aperture, there was still a lot left. It just so happened that it was no longer as crazy, so I absorbed it into my own energy. I didn't expect that it would actually help me complete the 2nd layer of the Dragon God Heart Sutra. Now I can already begin to cultivate the 3rd layer. I wonder if my dad is as fast as me. How could he know that it was precisely because his breakthrough was too fast? He had already attracted the attention of the 7 Dragon Kings. Fortunately, Nian Bing had promptly used the Tian Yin aperture to prevent the light from leaking out after opening the Li Zhong aperture. Only then did the Dark Dragon King, Kajios, not realize that he was secretly learning the Dragon God Heart Sutra. Nian Bing smiled. "Good. Then I really have to thank you properly. Oscar, in the memories you obtained, do you have any experience in using the Li Zhong aperture? Now that I've opened the Li Zhong aperture, logically speaking, my strength should have increased greatly. Perhaps I can already contend against that ice goddess priest." Oscar said with some disdain, "Stop dreaming. Do you think that opening an aperture will make you a god descent master? How can there be such a good thing? There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You'd better continue to work hard." Nian Bing asked doubtfully, "Why? Didn't that ice goddess priest only open 2 apertures?" Oscar said, "Because it's not as simple as you think. From the memories I obtained, apertures are also divided into realms. Every aperture has to undergo evolution before it can truly display its greatest effect. When an aperture is formed, it's the first evolution. It's also called opening. After that, after a period of cultivation, it will enter the 2nd stage. After reaching the 2nd stage, it can be said that you can truly use the aperture. At this time, your Earth aperture can be considered to have entered the middle stage. If you want to fully open the aperture, you have to wait until the final stage of the 3rd stage. Opening an aperture is undoubtedly the most difficult, but it's also not that easy to evolve it to the final stage. The more powerful an aperture can produce, the more difficult it is to evolve it. Among them, the Tian Yin aperture is the most difficult to evolve, followed by the Huangji aperture. You're lucky enough to be able to survive today's strange situation. You actually managed to evolve the Tian-Yin aperture to the middle stage and even opened the Li-Zhong aperture. For a human cultivator, this is almost inconceivable. Even on the continent of gods, such a situation has never happened before. Evolving one aperture and opening another aperture at the same time, what are you greedy for? Nian Bing smiled bitterly. I'm not greedy. I just feel that after opening two apertures, I should be able to contend with the ice goddess priest. You know how much I yearn for real news about my parents. Oscar said, actually, what I obtained was only a part of my parents' memories. At that time, I was too playful and didn't remember much. That's why I don't know how to use the Li-Zhong aperture. When we meet Uncle Garamandes, you can ask him. However, after some analysis, I can guess that the ice goddess priest has opened her aperture much longer than you. Moreover, I'm almost certain that the Tian-Yin aperture she has opened isn't one of the apertures she has opened. Although the Tian-Yin aperture is the best of the 7 apertures, it's also the only one that can directly increase one's offensive power. The ice goddess priest has opened 2 offensive apertures, and it's very likely that she has already evolved to the middle stage. On top of that, her magic power is much more powerful than yours. Even if you have an innate domain and all kinds of strange control methods, I'm afraid you won't be able to contend against her. You'd better wake up. Your current conditions are already very good. As long as you keep working hard with the foundation of the Tian-Yin aperture, you'll surpass that old woman one day. Taking a deep breath, the cold air made Nian Bing's heart feel a lot more comfortable. He gently nodded, saying, Kaka, you're right. I was indeed a bit too hasty. You don't know how happy I was when I opened the Li-Zhong aperture. I even thought of immediately looking for the ice goddess priest for revenge. I'm still not mature enough. Don't worry, this kind of situation won't happen again. Let's work hard together to create even more miracles. Oscar laughed mischievously. You're blaming me for giving you a blow. Actually, opening the Li-Zhong aperture should be of great benefit to you. Unfortunately, you still don't fully understand its use. Otherwise, it would be even better. Although you'll definitely be able to beat that woman, at least you'll have the ability to protect yourself. Nian Bing, I remember that you're very talented in making magic scrolls. Why didn't you make some space magic scrolls? You can run away even if you beat her. Nian Bing's eyes lit up. He immediately thought of a loophole in his plan of these days. That's great. Kaka, thank you. This time, everything is finally perfect. I can finally deal with the ice goddess priest. Actually, even if my strength is enough to contend with her, now is not the time to settle the score with her. She's still quite valuable to us. Thinking of this, Nian Bing lightly touched the Li-Zhong aperture. The faint golden lines gave him a warm feeling. His thoughts were already running at lightning speed, constantly thinking of the possible loopholes in his overall plan. Early in the morning, the crisp chirping of birds accompanied the slowly rising sun, announcing the arrival of a new day. Early in the morning, the marshal's mansion welcomed a distinguished guest. The eldest prince, Yanji, led dozens of subordinates to visit one of the 3 marshals of the empire, Shui, who was known to devour blood and destroy souls. As soon as Shui received the news, he immediately came out to greet them personally. Along with him was his prospective son-in-law, who was once the most useless and most despised 7th prince of the Ice Moon Empire, Yanfeng. Marshal Shui, I'm really sorry to disturb you so early. 7th brother, you're here too. Yanji walked up and patted Yanfeng's shoulder affectionately. Right now, he was completely acting like an elder brother. Yanfeng sneered in his heart, but didn't show any dissatisfaction on his face. He smiled and said, Big brother, you're up early too. I've only just arrived. Shuepa said, Eldest prince, please come in. Then, he gestured for them to enter. Everyone followed Shuepa into the living room. Yanji pointed at the 2 big boxes carried by his subordinates and said with a smile, These are some toys. Please accept them as a token of my respect. Marshal Shui. Shuepa frowned and said, Your Highness, this isn't very good. Yanji glanced at Yanfeng and said with a smile, What's wrong with this? Last time, I only sent a congratulatory gift, but seventh brother is my brother. As his big brother, I have to prepare some betrothal gifts for seventh brother. This is what I prepared for seventh brother. Marshal, you don't have to be so polite. Shuepa glanced at the surprised Yin Feng and said with a smile, Okay, thank you, Your Highness. Chapter 151. Yin Feng reacted immediately after being glanced at by Shuepa. He hurriedly said, Thank you, big brother. The servant left after serving the tea. Shuepa waved his hand, and the servants in the living room left as well. He glanced at the eldest prince and said with a smile, Your Highness, you've come to my humble abode so early in the morning. You must have something important to discuss. Yin Ji cursed inwardly. You old fox, weren't you the one who sent someone to look for me yesterday? Now you're playing dumb. He smiled and said calmly, Your guest gave me a lot of pointers yesterday. I'm here today to ask for your advice. Shuepa nodded. Your Highness, I've been in the military all my life. I'm a rough person, so I'll be frank. Judging from the current situation, it's disadvantageous for you. Yin Ji sighed. I was too careless because I was busy. I thought I had the upper hand, but I didn't expect Imperial Father to take such drastic measures. Looks like the older, the wiser. His words were very disrespectful, but his expression was very calm. Shuepa knew Yin Ji was testing him. He smiled faintly. Your Highness, I understand what you're thinking in the current situation. There's still time before the matter is settled. However, the final outcome will depend on whether you're brave enough. Your Highness, you should know that the winner is the king, while the loser is the thief. If you want to achieve great things, you must take risks. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. If your Highness only wants peace, then just pretend I didn't say anything. Yin Ji said seriously, Marshal Shui, you must be joking. You're an important minister of the Empire and have assisted Imperial Father for many years. I'll call you Uncle. Uncle Shui. Since I'm here today, I've made up my mind. I'd rather be a saint and be broken than live in dishonor. Even if I want to give in, little Fifth won't let me off after he ascends the throne. It's very obvious from his despicable means to second brother. I'm here today to ask you to give me some pointers. Good. You're indeed not the person I've chosen. The Snow Soul stood up and paced back and forth in the hall. Although Yin Ji was anxious, he did not urge the Snow Soul to do anything. After a while, Shuepa finally stopped in front of Yin Ji. He looked at Yin Ji and said, If that's the case, I wonder if your Highness has the determination to do so. As he spoke, he raised his palm like a knife and lightly waved it in the air. A light silver dough chi floated out and immediately split a sturdy wooden table into two. Yin Ji's eyes shone brightly as he stood up as well. Uncle Shui, you don't have to worry. Since I've come here to see you today, I'm prepared to sacrifice everything. From the words of the guest elder yesterday, he had already understood the meaning behind it. If he wanted to make a difference now, he couldn't be soft-hearted. Since he is heartless, then don't blame me for being unjust. After saying this, he glanced at Yin Feng. Yin Feng acted as if he didn't hear him and continued to drink his tea with his head lowered. Shuepa smiled. All right, since your First Highness has made such a decision, then Shuepo's plan can be carried out. Your Highness, let's first analyze the current situation. Yin Ji nodded. He didn't have any doubts about Shuepa because Nian Bing had asked for the spare parts on behalf of Shuepa yesterday. If Shuepa wasn't sincere, then Shuepa wouldn't have asked for that kind of condition so easily. However, that kind of spare parts was within the range of what he could agree to. Yin Ji was very clear about Shuepo's influence in the Ice Moon Empire. He didn't just want to use Shuepa, he also wanted to put a military genius like Shuepa in an important position even after he inherited the throne. Therefore, although Nian Bing's words had surprised him, Shuepo's sudden decision to support him also reduced his worries by a lot. With two of the three marshals supporting him, even if he wanted to launch a coup, he still had some confidence. Moreover, the current situation was far from that stage. All right, then I'll talk about my current situation first. In front of Uncle Shui, I have nothing to hide. Right now, the entire outer city defense of Ice Moon City is in my hands. 50,000 soldiers can be mobilized at any time. The forces that stand on my side account for close to 2/3 of them, and there are many people with real power. Even if my actions are a little special, as long as I can sit on the throne in the end, I have confidence that I can suppress all voices of opposition. Right now, there are two biggest problems. The first is the Royal Guardian Army. You're also very familiar with the commander of the Royal Guardian Army. He is only loyal to my father. No matter what method I use, it is impossible to bribe him to work for me. Therefore, we don't need to use any other ideas in this regard. The second and most important problem is the hidden threat from the Ice Goddess Priestess. If it wasn't for her and the Royal Guardian Army alone, I still have some confidence. Yin-Ji has been planning for that day for more than 10 years. I think that I have enough cards in my hands. Shuepa smiled coldly and said, "Good. Your Highness really does treat me as one of your own. Since that is the case, I don't need to hide anything from your Highness." Shuepa had already made her decision long ago, but she had been hesitating about what to do in the end. "Sigh, to be honest, if it wasn't for my daughter's accident, I wouldn't have made my decision so quickly. After all, it's hard to say who will win. However, for that day you mentioned, Shuepa has made some preparations. Although I don't have many guests in my residence, they are all talents that could be put to great use." Yin-Ji nodded in agreement. Nian Bing's unfathomable strength had left a deep impression on him. Shuepa paused for a moment. After a while, as if she had decided on something, a trace of killing intent appeared in her eyes. "I think I can help you solve the two problems your Highness mentioned." Yin-Ji was shocked. "Is this possible?" "Uncle Shui, I don't quite understand what you mean." Shuepa smiled and said, "How many people does your Highness think you need to contend with the Ice Goddess Priestess?" Yin-Ji thought for a moment and said, "I'm afraid that no one knows how powerful a God's Descent Master is. If you want to deal with the Ice Goddess Priestess, you will need a large number of experts. Moreover, you will need experts at least at the level of swordsman. Normal people are nothing but cannon fodder in front of the Ice Goddess Priestess. She can easily tear apart a large number of soldiers with a single spell. I've invited 4 guests at the level of swordsman, but even if they work together, I'm afraid they won't be a match for the Ice Goddess Priestess. The strength of the Ice Goddess Priestess can no longer be measured by the title of magician." Shuepo's eyes shone brightly as she said in a deep voice, "What if you add 3 swordsmen and 4 archmages?" Yin-Ji's body trembled as he looked at Shuepo in shock. He didn't expect Shuepo to have such a powerful force. Shuepo smiled faintly. "Only through the test of iron and blood can a true expert be nurtured. I think your Highness should understand this principle. To be able to dominate the battlefield, I naturally need to have my own tyrannical forces. Otherwise, how could I be worthy of being a marshal?" Yin-Ji took a deep breath and said, "If Uncle Shuepo really has so many experts helping you, then you are definitely the #1 marshal of the empire. If 11 swordsmen and other experts attack together, I think that even if the Ice Goddess Priestess is strong, you won't be able to withstand it. Uncle Shuepo, you really give me confidence." Shuepo smiled. "I've already taken care of the biggest problem for you. As for the Imperial Palace, I have 500 personal guards under me. These people are all men of sacrifice that I've carefully nurtured. They are extremely skilled in joint attacks. With them assisting your Highness, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to charge into the Imperial Palace. You don't have to worry about those high-ranked mages of the Ice God Tower in the Imperial Palace. Although those people are a threat when the Ice Goddess Priestess is about to arrive at Ice Moon City as the subordinates of the Ice God Tower, they will definitely welcome her. That vacuum of time is the best time for us to make our move. Moreover, if the Ice Goddess Priestess is attacked, the Imperial Palace will definitely be alerted. No one is better than the people of the Ice God Tower at sending messages. Therefore, when we deal with her, we will send a large number of soldiers to surround her. If we can mobilize the Imperial Guardian Squad, that will be even better." Yin-Ji narrowed his eyes, a cold light flashing in them. "All right, I understand. The moment the Ice Goddess Priestess leaves the Ice God Tower is the time for us to make our move. Uncle Shuepo, let's discuss the specific details. With your people working together, my control will be greatly increased." 2 hours later, Yin-Ji left the marshal's mansion. When he left, he had a confident smile on his face. When it came to war, Who in the Ice Moon Empire could be better than an expert like Shuepa? Careful planning was the key to success. Moreover, the secret forces that Yin Ji cultivated himself weren't that simple. Although the Imperial Guardian Squad was loyal, not everyone was that loyal. Moreover, his mother was in the Imperial Palace. I can't believe he's that woman's son. He decided to make a move on his own brother and father so easily, Yin Feng said calmly. Shuepa smiled. Yin Ji is indeed a character. In order to ascend to the throne, he has been planning for a long time. According to the information we received, Marshal Ness, who supports him, has secretly mobilized his army. Ness's army is very close to Ice Moon City. Although Yinji didn't say it explicitly, the troops to deal with the Ice Goddess Priestess will definitely be mobilized from Ness's army. Although the Fifth Prince also has Marshal Lam's support, Lam's army is very far from the Imperial Palace. Even if he mobilizes his army, it won't be easy. Moreover, my army is blocking Marshal Lam's army. If he wants to return to Ice Moon City, he has to pass through my army's territory. Therefore, whether it's the First Prince or the Fifth Prince, they have always wanted to use me. For a long time, the Empire has never been afraid of us marshals controlling the military power. This is because when there's no war, we marshals have to live in Ice Moon City. Moreover, there are many troops stationed in every city of the Empire. However, this method inevitably makes the marshals too powerful. If any of the marshals wants to rebel, it will have a huge impact on the Empire. Yin Feng was stunned. Father, you're telling me this because Shuep has smiled. Just like how money is only yours when you receive it, only when the military power is completely in the hands of the monarch can you truly control the empire. Therefore, when you ascend to the throne, the first thing you have to do is to divide the power of the marshals. Yin Feng's heart warmed. He knew that Xue Ji was doing this for his sake. He nodded firmly and said, "If I can really take that position, I'll definitely listen to your orders and change the important positions in the general to my own people." Shuep sighed. "Although you're my son-in-law, I have to do this for the Bloodline sect. How many people do you have on your side? To be more precise, you should give them to our Bloodline sect. When that time comes, your power in the military will be completely taken away." "Where's Nian Bing? Is he still not awake?" Yin Feng asked. Shuepa frowned. "I'm not as good as you. Perhaps he's still resting." Shuepa also felt a strange energy fluctuation from Nian Bing's residence last night. However, he was also told by Nian Bing not to disturb him through soul telepathy. Therefore, he didn't disturb him. According to the original plan, Nian Bing was supposed to participate in today's meeting with Yin Ji. However, he didn't come. After changing into a brand new white magic robe, Nian Bing walked out of his room. He breathed in the cold, fresh air and felt the constantly flowing energy in his body. He couldn't help but smile proudly. The opening of the Li Zhong acupoint gave him hope for the future. Although Oscar told him that he still couldn't fight against the Ice Goddess, he also understood the importance of the Tianyin acupoint. Without the Tianyin acupoint, the Li Zhong acupoint wouldn't have opened so quickly. Fatso was right. The Tianyin acupoint was a spiritual acupoint. With it, it would be easier for him to cultivate to a higher realm. Nian Bing could clearly feel a warm current in his chest. He found that his magic power was much more stable than before. This was the first time he felt this way since the Tianhua acupoint was destroyed. The speed at which he absorbed the Li Zhong acupoint was also much faster than before. After opening the Li Zhong acupoint, Nian Bing faintly felt that the cultivation of the 7 acupoints had a lot to do with the Li Zhong acupoint. Only by fully utilizing the Li Zhong acupoint could he make it evolve faster. And after mastering the method of absorbing the essence of heaven and earth, the speed at which he absorbed the Li Zhong acupoint had obviously increased. However, until now, Nian Bing still couldn't figure out the connection between the Li Zhong acupoint and his magic power. Could it really be that it was just a simple auxiliary function? Another month passed. The waves caused by the second prince's death gradually calmed down. The entire Ice Moon City also calmed down. However, those who knew the inside story knew that this was only the calm before the storm. in the secret room of the Ice Moon Hall of the Blood Breath Lion sect. The great elder sighed and said, "It seems that talent is the foundation of an expert. White hair, we have tried all kinds of methods during this period of time. However, none of them could let us feel the Li Zhong acupoint, let alone the 7 acupoints that you described. We are already old. Time doesn't allow us to make any major breakthroughs." After opening the Li Zhong acupoint, Nian Bing didn't rush to find out the use of it. Instead, he continued to cultivate to improve his magic power. With the nourishment of the Li Zhong acupoint, his magic power improved very quickly, and the Tian Yin acupoint also brought him a lot of surprises. The fine control that he couldn't do before could now be done easily, especially the subtle control of the shadow puppets and the changes in the Tian Yin domain. Both reached a new height. The Tian Yin domain would indeed increase with the increase of cultivation. He really hoped that the 7 elders could become stronger. The 7 elders were all experienced swordsmen or magisters. If they could break through the bottleneck and reach a new realm, then the strength of the bloodline cult would definitely reach a higher level. Even the problem of their age would be alleviated. However, the Li Zhong acupoint wasn't as easy to obtain as imagined. Although Nian Bing told the 7 elders about his cultivation process without reservation, the 7 elders still maintained their original realm after a month. They didn't even produce a trace of Li Zhong acupoint. "Great elder, you don't have to be discouraged. I think, as long as you work hard, the elders will definitely have a breakthrough," Nian Bing said as he pondered about the loopholes in his cultivation. But he found out. The reason why he could open the Tian Yin acupoint and Li Zhong acupoint was mostly because of the special environment and good luck. However, these couldn't be taught. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Nian Bing was awakened from his thoughts. "Come in." The door opened. The hall master of the Ice Moon Hall, Ying Tu, walked in and said respectfully, "Leader, the Ice Goddess priests have already left the Ice God Tower and are heading towards the Ice Moon City. Only the emissary sent by the Ice Moon Empire is accompanying them." Nian Bing's eyes brightened. "Good. What should come has come. Hall Master Yin, pass down my order. Bloodline Hall's 500 blood guards are ready to attack at any time. 7 elders. It's time for all of you to get moving." As he spoke, he took out 7 magic scrolls from his robes and handed them to the 7 elders. These 7 scrolls are the last life-saving items. If it's possible, you don't have to force yourself. Immediately activate the scrolls. The location of the scrolls is Ice Moon City. When you come back, just wait for me here. Elders, safety is the most important thing. Compared to this operation, you are more important. The 7 elders took the magic scrolls from Nian Bing. The great elder smiled and said, "Leader, don't worry. It's not easy to tear apart old bones like us. Moreover, there are so many cannon fodder here. Taking advantage of the situation is what our bloodline cult is best at." Nian Bing nodded and said, "What you need to do is to delay. Don't fight recklessly. Once the Ice Goddess priests activate God's descent, you must immediately tear the scrolls and escape." It's funny that First Prince Yin Ji actually thought that 11 swordsman-level experts could kill a God's Descent master. But how could he know the true power of God's Descent? From Archmage and Swordsman to God's Descent Master and God Tier, although there was only a difference of 1 level, the difference in strength was huge. Back then, the Snow Goddess Priestess had only just become a God's Descent Master, but she was already able to fight against 3 Archmages, including the Blazing Lion King, Rong Yan, on her own and return victorious. Today, 20 years later, she would definitely become even more powerful. According to the stacking of their strengths, she would definitely be able to fight against 11 Warrior Saint and Magic Master level experts. However, once she cast God's Descent without hesitation, even if there were more experts, they wouldn't be able to defend against it. Nian Bing had heard a few Dragon Kings say that even with their strong bodies, Dragon King would still be injured by the huge pressure when casting a 12th level forbidden spell. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would easily cast a spell above the 11th level. After all, the burden was too great. Therefore, The mission he gave the seven elders was only to delay, not to kill. At the same time as Nian Bing, the first prince's residence reacted. A total of 5,000 elites had already been arranged by the first prince in various secret courtyards in Ice Moon City. As long as he gave the order, the operation would begin. Nian Bing returned to the inn alone. Ice Moon City was about to experience a huge upheaval, so he had to ensure Kitty's safety. Big brother Nian Bing, you're back. That's great. Big sister Bingyan also went out today. Kitty is so lonely by herself. Kitty giggled and ran in front of Nian Bing, pulling his hand and shaking it. Nian Bing naturally knew what Bingyan had gone to do. Since the Ice Goddess Priestess wanted to come to Ice Moon City, the Ice God Tower naturally had to go out of the city to welcome her. It was good that she wasn't here, so he didn't have to use tricks to get rid of her. He smiled and said, Kitty, go with Big Brother Nian Bing. Big Brother has found a new place for you to stay. Kitty was stunned and said, Then what about Big Sister Bingyan? She'll be worried if she doesn't see us when she comes back. Nian Bing smiled and said, It's okay. Big Brother will contact her. Let's go. We'll leave this place immediately. He still had a lot of things to do and couldn't waste a moment. Kitty's face paled slightly and said, Big Brother, is it because Big Sister Bingyan wants to catch you? This time, it was Nian Bing's turn to be stunned. Kitty, you already know? Kitty nodded and said, I heard Big Sister Bingyan use a crystal ball to tell someone that she wants to catch you and bring you back to some tower. Big Brother, I think Big Sister Bingyan is a good person, but why does she want to catch you? Nian Bing sighed softly and said, These things can't be explained in a sentence or two. Big Brother will tell you later. All right, let's go. There will be a big change in Ice Moon City. Big Brother will take you to a safe place first. After everything calms down, I'll send you home. Okay? Kitty nodded obediently and hurriedly ran back to her room to pack her simple luggage. Nian Bing didn't notice that a trace of cunning flashed through Kitty's big, charming eyes. Nian Bing sent Kitty to the secret room of Ice Moon Hall and told the Bloodlion cult to take good care of her. Then, he immediately left Ice Moon Hall and went straight to the Marshal's mansion. At this time, the 500 blood guards of the Bloodlion cult had already finished gathering. Kitty opened the door in the secret room and peeked outside. She sneaked a peek outside. At this time, the Bloodlion sect members were all busy preparing for the upcoming change in the world. No one had noticed her. She closed the door again. She giggled and softly chanted, I summon you in the name of Shi Yun. Come out, my pet Chong Chong. Kitty's eyes flashed with a gentle light. A clear white hexagram appeared in front of her and flashed. A black thing appeared on the ground in front of her. If anyone could see it at this moment, at this time, people would be so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths because what appeared in front of Kitty was actually a huge cockroach. It was the size of a plate, and its body was close to a foot in diameter. It shone with a faint light, and its two antennae swayed slightly. Its body was lying on the ground motionlessly. Kitty kicked the big cockroach and said angrily, Don't sleep. You little pets are lazier than the other. The big cockroach moved and rubbed against Kitty's feet affectionately. Kitty's eyes flashed, and the big cockroach's body quickly rotated on the ground. A layer of black light without any dark aura enveloped Kitty's body. Kitty took a step forward, standing on the back of the cockroach. Although her cockroach-summoned beast didn't have any attack power, it was the best beast to hide. In the first stage, this cockroach had used its illusionary ability to deceive the Phoenix Maiden. Now that it was in the second stage, it had more protective functions. Wrapped in the black light, Kitty chanted again, I summon you in the name of Shi Yun. Come out, my pet Tian Tian. With a flash of light, the big mouse Tian Tian, which had become much bigger, wagged its tail and twisted its fat buttocks. It looked at Kitty with its pair of small dark red eyes. Through the special spiritual power of white people, Kitty immediately gave Tian Tian a lifespan. Mice are born to dig holes. The dark magic mouse is an expert in digging holes and tracking. Tian Tian, you lead the way in front and follow Brother Nian Bing. Xiang Xiang, follow Tian Tian. Don't get lost. Tian Tian nodded its head, and its two front claws moved quickly on the ground like steel bars. Its huge body quickly drilled into the ground. The black light on the back of the cockroach Xiangxiang was obviously stronger. Kitty squatted down, and under the effect of the black light, she merged with the cockroach. The cockroach moved very quickly and chased after Tian Tian, who drilled into the ground. There was a hole in the heavily guarded secret room of the Ice Moon Hall. In fact, even Kitty herself did not expect that she would be together with Nianbing. In the palace of the Ice Moon Empire, the already very weak Emperor Yin Taonan received the news that the Ice Goddess Priestess was about to arrive. His spirit was obviously better. With the help of the palace maids, he half sat up and ordered his most trusted leader of the royal guards, Rudolph, the Ice Goddess Priestess is about to arrive at Ice Snow City. I'm not feeling well. You replace me and immediately lead the 3,000 elites of the royal guards to the city gate to welcome her. I think the masters of the Ice God Tower have already gone. Rudolph was an honest person and deeply trusted by Yin Tianan. He said with some surprise, "Your Majesty, the Ice Goddess Priestess is the most powerful existence on the continent. She will also be welcomed by the people of the Ice God Tower. I don't think I need to go anymore. Protecting your safety is my most important duty. I think the Ice Goddess Priestess won't care about these customs." After Yin Tianan let the two palace maids leave, he took a deep breath and pulled himself together. He said, "Of course I know that the Ice Goddess Priestess doesn't need to condense. The most important reason why I asked you to go and receive her is not because of the Ice Goddess Priestess. The Ice Goddess Priestess is about to arrive. With the power that Boss has gathered in the city, there is no reason for him to know. With his intelligence, even if he didn't think of my decision beforehand, once he heard that the Ice Goddess Priestess is about to arrive, he will definitely have some reaction. At this time, Yin is in the most danger. The real reason why I asked you to receive the Ice Goddess Priestess is to let you bring Yin Yun to the palace. With the Ice Goddess Priestess here, I can only announce the successor. In this palace, although I am the absolute master, you are the only one I can trust. Although there are only 10,000 people in the palace guards, there are many experts. You can only guarantee Yin Yun's safety if you bring 3,000 people to receive him. Don't worry, I will definitely hold on until you come back." Cough, cough. After saying so much in one breath, he was already a little out of breath. He coughed a few times, and his face became even paler. Rudolph was shocked. He was a person who couldn't hold back his words. "Your Majesty, do you mean that the first prince might do something to the fifth prince?" Yin Tianan smiled bitterly. "Although you hadn't come to the palace when I ascended the throne, you should have heard how I inherited the throne. In order to control the power of the country, even if it was my own brother, I wouldn't do anything to him. All right, you should go quickly. If you delay, there'll be changes. I think it's time for the boss to take action. Your Majesty, the seventh prince requests an audience. He even specially brought a doctor to treat you." The chief eunuch's voice came from outside the door. Yin Tianan's face revealed a faint smile. In his anxiety, only his seventh son could make him feel a little more at ease. Ever since Yin Feng and Shui Po's daughter Shui Yu got engaged, Yin Feng came to the palace almost every day to visit Yin Tianan. Although he didn't speak much, Yin Tianan could see that his son cared for him from the bottom of his heart. What made Yin Tianan most gratified was that this son, who was once the least important to him, had never asked for anything from him. Every time he came, he would only accompany him for a period of time in silence before leaving quietly. Occasionally, they would talk a little, but his voice was still as cold as usual. Yin Tianan suddenly realized that the one who had always stayed by his side as the ruler was actually this son of his. Yin Tianan gave Rudolph a look and said, "Let him in." Rudolph respectfully bowed to Yin Tianan before leaving. He had already acted according to Yin Tianan's orders. The door opened again. Yin Feng walked in with a young man in gray clothes. Yin Tianan smiled and said, "Fenger, why are you here again? Don't you want to spend more time with your future wife? It's a pity that father's health can't take it anymore. Otherwise, I would definitely preside over your wedding." Chapter 152. Yin Feng lowered his head and sat down beside Yin Tianan. Just like before, he calmly said, "Father, your health is important. Today, I've brought a light magician. Perhaps his treatment will have some effect on your body." As he spoke, his gaze turned to the gray-clothed youth who had entered the room with him. The gray-clothed youth was Nian Bing. Upon hearing Yin Feng's introduction, he hurriedly bowed respectfully towards Yin Tiannan. This was the first time he had seen the Emperor of the Ice Moon Empire. At this moment, the Emperor was more like an old man with one foot in the grave. He no longer had the majesty that an emperor should have. "Nian Bing greets your majesty." Yin Tiannan reluctantly waved his hand and said, "Get up. There's no need to trouble yourself. I know my own body best. Feng, stay here and accompany me today. Father doesn't have much time left. I hope that in the last moments of my life, I can have a son by my side." A complicated look appeared in Yin Feng's eyes. After a while, he silently nodded his head. At this moment, what appeared in his mind was the expression on his mother's face after she turned into a corpse. He would never, ever forget that expression. Yin Tiannan's eyes became hazy. He sighed and said, "Actually, I know that I've wronged your mother. You coming to this world was an accident. I'm not a good father, nor a good emperor. My life has passed in a hurry. It's going to end soon. It's going to end soon." Nian Bing stood in front of the bed and helped Yin Tiannan up. After Yin Feng and Nian Bing entered the room, 8 experts from the Imperial Palace followed them in. They were all martial grandmasters. Other than the people Yin Tiannan trusted the most, anyone who came to see him would be guarded by the Imperial Palace guards. Seeing Nian Bing supporting Yin Tiannan's body, the 8 guards stepped forward at the same time. Nian Bing didn't even look at the guards. He said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, let this commoner try. Perhaps it will be of some help to you." Yin Tiannan nodded and said, "It's rare for Feng to be so filial. Just try it. Anyway, I've never had any hope for it myself." Nian Bing took a deep breath. With one hand supporting Yin Tiannan's body, he placed his other hand on Yin Tiannan's back. Through his Tian Yin acupoint, he quickly examined Yin Tiannan's condition. Although he had an ulterior motive for coming here, he still couldn't help but let out a low cry of surprise. Yin Tiannan smiled faintly and said, "You've already discovered it? My current life is only hanging on by the use of various precious medicines. That's why I'm still alive. When I was young, in order to fight for the position of emperor, I sacrificed too much. I was seriously injured and my internal organs were damaged long ago. Although I have been recuperating for many years, there is still no improvement. Furthermore, as an emperor, there were too many temptations placed in front of me. Wine, women, and heavy injuries had caused my body to completely rot. There was no saving me. I also practice martial skills, so I'm very clear about my own body. Although light magic had a very strong healing effect, it could only heal injuries and not cure illnesses. Even the most powerful magician wouldn't be able to reconstruct my body. I've heard from the Snow Goddess priest that if I want to truly recover, I need the light magic of the 12th step to reconstruct all my bones and internal organs. However, there's no such expert in the whole Yangon continent. Therefore, you don't need to waste your energy." Nian Bing could clearly feel that Yin Tiannan's body was rapidly deteriorating. He was indeed hanging on to his last breath, but his stubbornness prevented him from dying. Once this last breath was over, his life would also be over. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing slowly closed his eyes. Through the transfer of his soul, a thick Xiantian qi slowly flowed from his right palm into Yin Tiannan's body. The speed at which he released the Xiantian qi was very slow. He was afraid that Yin Tiannan's body was too weak to accept it. Yin Tiannan's body shook. Under the nourishment of the Xiantian qi, his face emitted a faint layer of red. His originally weak expression actually became much more spirited at this moment. His eyes were filled with astonishment. "Ah, this seems to be Xiantian qi. The Snow Goddess priest also once used Xiantian qi to heal me. Feng, I didn't expect you to have such a friend." Of course he knew what Xiantian qi represented. Although he felt that Nian Bing's Xiantian qi wasn't as strong as the Snow Goddess priest's, it was much purer. Such a person was definitely worthy of respect. Therefore, he didn't call Nian Bing Yin Feng's subordinate, but a friend. Nian Bing said, Your Majesty, please speak as little as possible. I will try to use Xian Tian Qi to heal your internal injuries. Yin Tianen shook his head. It's no use. Your Xian Tian Qi can only save my life, but it can't heal my damaged internal organs. However, with the support of your Xian Tian Qi, I think I can wait until the snow goddess priest arrives. Indeed, Xian Tian Qi really couldn't heal Yin Tiannan's serious injuries. Finding that Yin Tiannan's body couldn't be saved, Nian Bing was relieved. He could see that with the constant contact between Yin Feng and Yin Tianan these days, Yin Feng's hatred for his father seemed to have lessened a lot. He had said several times that his father was an old man who was about to die. Although he hated his father, he wouldn't exist without Yin Tianan. Therefore, he would do his filial piety in this last period of time. At this time, Yin Tianan really couldn't be saved. Nian Bing naturally didn't have the conflicting feelings that he expected to have. He didn't just use Yin Feng as a tool. Yin Feng was already his friend. From everything that Yin Feng had done to Snow Saint, Nian Bing had already recognized him as a friend. Perhaps it could be said that he was a brother. Nian Bing couldn't kill his brother's father to achieve his own goals. Before coming here, he had already decided that if Yin Tianan could still be saved, even if he had to give up this heaven-changing operation, he would still cure Yin Tianan. At that time, although Yin Feng couldn't inherit the throne, at least Long Ling's marriage would be settled. Even Yin Feng didn't know that Nian Bing had such complicated thoughts in his heart. Seeing that Yin Tiannan's complexion was much better, his expression also softened. Father, you should rest for a while. I'll stay here with you and won't leave. Yin Tianan shook his head. No, I have something to say to you. If I don't say it now, I'm afraid I won't have a chance to say it in the future. Feng, do you want to hear the story of me and your mother and what I think of you? Without waiting for Yin Feng to answer, he continued. That year, when I was drunk, I took your mother's body. I didn't expect that I would have you. As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. Even if your mother didn't come from a good family, you were still my son. However, at that time, even if I wanted to treat you and your mother better, I couldn't. There are some things that you can't know. In fact, it's only been 10 years since I became the emperor. When I just inherited the throne, I couldn't even be called the emperor of country. Yin Feng said indifferently, Father, you don't have to say anymore. I know what you want to say very well. You can sit in your current position because of the help of the empress. Without her family's huge power, you wouldn't be where you are today. So, you listen to the empress very much, and even fear her. It wasn't until you nurtured a force strong enough to protect your position that all of this changed. However, at that time, you really forgot about my existence. If I guess correctly, you should know everything that the empress did to me and my mother. The empress and fifth brother's mother planned to kill my mother together, and at the same time, found me a master like that. They didn't kill me, but they wanted to see me become the biggest joke in the Ice Moon Empire's imperial family. Am I right? Yin Tianan looked at Yin Feng with some surprise, and said with a bitter smile, So you know everything. It seems that I still underestimated you. Yin Feng sighed. If I can't even figure out how my mother died, then I'm not worthy of being a son. Father, please rest. I don't want to talk about these things, because I don't want to hate you. No matter how you treat me, your blood always flows in my body. I'm willing to accompany you in your last moments. Don't talk about hate. Don't talk about love, just because I'm your son. Yin Tianan's eyes were a bit wet. Looking at Yin Feng's handsome face, he sighed again. A man's words are kind when he's about to die. Child, I've let you and your mother down. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to make it up to you. When your fifth brother comes, I'll tell him to treat you well. With Marshal Shue's support, I think your life will be much better than before. That's all I can do. Nian Bing still maintained his Xian Tian Qi. Looking at Yin Tianan, he couldn't help but think of his father. He forced himself to suppress the emotions in his heart, not letting them explode. It seems that everything will be decided today. Yin Tianan, if you really want to make it up to me, then follow my plan and make the final decision. His plan had a certain element of gambling in it. Only when Yin Tianan really followed his plan could this plan be perfect. Otherwise, It was hard to say what would happen. While Yin Feng was guarding his father in the palace, outside of Ice Moon City, the masters of the Ice God Tower were also ready to welcome the supreme Ice Goddess Priestess in their hearts. Bingyan stood in front of all 30 or so ice mages. Although she wasn't the strongest among these mages, she was the most beloved disciple of the Ice Goddess Priestess. At the same time, she was also the most talented disciple of the Ice God Tower. Just yesterday, the Ice Goddess Priestess contacted her through the crystal ball. In a simple conversation, the Ice Goddess Priestess didn't say much. She only told Bingyun that she was about to come to Ice Moon City and asked her to gather all the people of the Ice God Tower in Ice Moon City to wait. Frozen Cloud was overjoyed from the bottom of her heart when she received the news from the Snow Goddess. She could faintly feel that her master had made a new breakthrough in magic. As for what extent this breakthrough had reached, she couldn't guess. At the same time, she was a bit disappointed. She was very sad that her teacher had died. Then, Nianbing would also follow her back to the Ice God Tower. No matter how powerful Nianbing was, he couldn't possibly fight his master head-on. But was this a good thing or a bad thing? Bingyan couldn't be sure what kind of treatment Nianbing would receive. After receiving Yin Tianan's order, Rudolph chose the most elite guards of the Royal Guard and left the palace as quickly as possible. He led 20 people straight to the North Gate, while the 3,000 guards he brought went straight to the 5th Prince's mansion. Not many people were needed to welcome the Ice Goddess Priestess. As long as they met up with her, they would be able to pass by the 5th Prince's mansion on the way back to the palace. Then, they would meet up with his subordinates and the 5th Prince. At that time, with the Ice Goddess Priestess in charge, there wouldn't be any changes. When he arrived, he didn't notice many changes in the 5th Prince's mansion. Everything was as usual. The 1st Prince seemed to know nothing. Even the atmosphere in Ice Moon City didn't change at all. Seeing this, Rudolph secretly sighed in relief. After all, wouldn't it be better to settle things peacefully? Soon, he arrived at the North Gate and met up with Qinhuan Bingyun and the other experts of the Ice God Tower, waiting for the arrival of the Ice Goddess Priestess. Indeed, the 1st Prince didn't send anyone to harm the 5th Prince because he knew that it wasn't necessary. There was no need for him to do anything to harm the 5th Prince. He gave the order to attack, and the head steward attacked Snow Soul. In order to show his trust in Snow Soul, Yanji gave all of his 5,000 elites to Snow Soul to control. As for himself, he quietly left the 1st Prince's mansion and went to Snow Soul's martial mansion. Everything was going according to plan. According to the 1st Prince Yanji's plan, it was also according to the Bloodline Sex plan. Rudolph and Bingyun were waiting for the arrival of the Ice Goddess Priestess. However, they didn't know that it wasn't so easy for the Ice Goddess Priestess to come to Ice Moon City, on the Yangon continent. If there was a person who was the most arrogant, no one would hesitate. The answer would definitely be the owner of the Ice God Tower, the Ice Goddess Priestess. Her arrogance came from her strength. How could the only God-descending master on the continent not have the right to be arrogant? As soon as she came out of seclusion, the Ice Goddess Priestess received the messenger from Ice Moon City. After she read the letter written by the king of the Ice Moon Empire, Yin Tiannan, she didn't say anything. She immediately left the Ice God Tower with the messenger and headed towards Ice Moon City. Yin Tiannan wrote clearly in the letter that the throne of the Ice Moon Empire was changing. He invited the respected Ice Goddess Priestess to come and witness this moment. The Ice Goddess Priestess had met Yin Tiannan many times and knew him very well. She knew that Yin Tiannan was begging her. In fact, even without the support of the Ice Moon Empire, the Ice God Tower's position on the continent was unshakable. No one dared to provoke her, not even a powerful empire. However, with the support of the Ice Moon Empire, the Ice Goddess Priestess could cultivate better and reach the world she desired faster. Therefore, she would still help the Ice Moon Empire when it came to important matters. This time, without a doubt, was the most important event in the years to come. The Ice Goddess Priestess wasn't an ordinary ice magician. She didn't need to walk at all. Ordinary ice magicians couldn't maintain a snowstorm for too long, but it became a flying tool for her. Large snowflakes carried her and the messenger's body in the breeze. They flew towards Ice Moon City, the capital of the Ice Moon Empire, at the fastest speed. With her speed, it would take her at most a day and a half to reach Ice Moon City. The messenger sent by Yin Tianan to invite the Ice Goddess Priestess was undoubtedly an outstanding candidate. At this moment, the messenger was secretly looking at the Ice Goddess Priestess. It was the first time he saw this legendary figure. When he saw the peerless beauty of the Ice Goddess Priestess, he discovered that a woman could actually be so beautiful. However, the cold air emitted by the Ice Goddess Priestess filled his heart with fear. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out how a woman over 50 years old could be as moving as a 16-year-old peerless beauty. Unfortunately, at the same time, it was also very cold. As usual, the Ice Goddess Priestess wore a white magic robe. On the robe, there were intricately embroidered ice flowers that flickered with a faint blue light. Her long blue hair fluttered behind her back. Her cold eyes didn't show the slightest emotion. Around her body, because of the excessive concentration of ice elements, one could even hear the cheerful cries of these magical elements. The blizzard outside the Ice Goddess Priestess body had already become a kind of cycle instinct. Every snowflake looked so sparkling and translucent. Under the support of the blizzard, the surrounding air was very cold. Although the messenger's doqi was somewhat mature, after being frozen for a long time, his body was already somewhat stiff. In the cold, he couldn't help but feel like he was about to fall asleep. Just at this moment, he suddenly saw that not far ahead, a mountain peak below was shining with a faint red light. The messenger saw it, so naturally the Ice Goddess Priestess also saw it. With a cold snort, the surrounding temperature seemed to drop by half in an instant. The air outside the blizzard condensed, but strangely, in this seemingly sealed space, the buoyancy of the blizzard didn't decrease in the slightest. Surging ice elements surged out violently. The Ice Goddess Priestess' eyes shone with a cold light. Fire dragon. Yes, that was a majestic fire dragon. Red light blossomed, mixed with scorching flames, causing the air to distort like water. The huge fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws, pouncing straight towards the Ice Goddess Priestess in the air. Floating above the blizzard, the Ice Goddess Priestess' body didn't move in the slightest. The faint white light drifted out like frost mist. She slowly opened her mouth, but instead of chanting an incantation, she spat out a faint white gas. With a puff, the white gas fused with the cold current released around her body. In an instant, it actually condensed into a 6-step dual-colored ice ball, welcoming that huge fire dragon. Just at this moment, the fire dragon suddenly changed. When it was still 10 feet away from the dual-colored ice ball, its body suddenly turned from fiery red to bright blue. The blue flames seemed to have a somewhat strange aura. At the same time, the surrounding temperature also rose in a flash. The Ice Goddess Priestess let out a soft cry of surprise. She wasn't surprised because the fire dragon had transformed into real fire, but because a huge black dragon had split out from that huge blue fire dragon. Dark evilness mixed with the scorching heat of the flames, forming a dark blue hellfire. Under the violent state of the two huge dragons, they suddenly rushed up. At this moment, they were already 10 feet away from the Ice Goddess Priestess. The combination of these two magic had already reached the 10th level. The dual-colored ice ball disappeared almost instantly under the influence of the two huge magic dragons. The speed of the two huge dragons didn't decrease, but instead increased, bringing along two completely different magic elements. They swallowed the Ice Goddess Priestess. The Ice Goddess Priestess' eyes shone with cold light. In those cold eyes, there was actually a trace of excitement. She hadn't met a magician who dared to attack her for a long time. Of course, she definitely wouldn't be afraid because of the opponent's attack. She wouldn't even retreat because she was the Ice Goddess Priestess, the only god-descending magician on the continent. At the same time, it was also because of her pride. Raising her sparkling jade-like right hand, the Ice Goddess Priestess body, floating in the air, seemed to have suddenly encountered a huge gravitational force. Without any warning, she abruptly dropped, causing that emissary who was also in the midst of the blizzard to cry out in alarm. And this momentary drop just happened to avoid the attack of the two huge dragons. The ice goddess priestess' right hand lit up. In the center of her palm, a blue hexagram appeared. A speck of golden light emerged from the center of that blue hexagram. The ice goddess priestess sneered. Her descending body suddenly stopped in midair. She flipped her right hand up, making a gesture of holding up the sky with a single palm. The blue hexagram revolved around that speck of golden light, turning into a beam of light more than a foot in diameter, directly meeting the two huge dragons in the air. At this time, the one who felt it the most was the emissary beside the ice goddess priestess. He was shocked to discover that a circle of golden ripples appeared around the faint ice aura surrounding the ice goddess priestess body. The ice goddess priestess' not very tall body instantly bloomed with an incomparably huge domineering aura. No, to be precise, that should be the aura of a ruler. The rising golden and blue light was really too small compared to the two huge magic dragons. But it was this golden beam of light that changed the momentum of the two huge dragons. They circled around the golden beam of light. The ice goddess priestess softly shouted, and that golden light instantly enlarged. At this moment, the air within a radius of 10 feet was filled with a feeling of nothingness. It was as if all the magic elements were instantly sucked away by an indescribable force. With a flash of light, the two huge dragons silently disappeared. On the hill below, the second elder and the fifth elder of the 7 bloodline elders simultaneously let out a muffled groan and stumbled back several steps. The originally powerful magic elements surrounding their bodies suddenly dimmed a lot. Under the influence of the aura, their magic power had already been greatly shaken. The great elder was shocked. Although he didn't think that the magic released by his two brothers together could cause any harm to the ice goddess priestess, he didn't expect that the ice goddess priestess could actually resolve it so quickly. A 10th grade magic was actually so weak in front of her. What worried the great elder the most was that the magic used by the ice goddess priestess didn't seem to be as simple as ice magic. Although this was what he thought, the great elder still waved his hand. Immediately, the 5,000 elite archers lying in ambush around the hill appeared. These archers were divided into groups of 10. Among them, 6 were responsible for setting up, 3 were responsible for drawing the bow, and 1 was responsible for loading the arrow. What they used was one of the most lethal long-range weapons in the Yangon continent, called the Dragon Slayer crossbow. This kind of Dragon Slayer crossbow was about 5 feet tall, 15 feet long, and 20 feet wide. It required the combined effort of 3 people to pull it open with the help of the pulley and the force of the feet. It was the most powerful crossbow in the Yangon continent's military. Because of its high cost and the large number of soldiers required to use it, it wasn't widely used. However, this kind of giant crossbow was very powerful. It was the most powerful weapon used to deal with heavy cavalry and heavy infantry. Most of them were used when defending a city. One crossbow could set up 3 arrows at the same time. Once released, it was enough to kill any target within a range of 1,750 meters. Because it was a heavy crossbow, it was very accurate in terms of aiming. It was quite powerful against some important targets. The arrows were 2 feet long and made of fine steel. The body of the arrow was as thick as a child's arm, just like a short spear. This time, in order to deal with the ice goddess priestess, the great prince Yin-Ji could be said to have thrown caution to the wind. He had transferred the only heavy crossbow regiment in the entire Ice Moon Empire from the marshal who supported him. For such a powerful existence like the ice goddess priestess, only this kind of heavy crossbow could possibly cause harm to her. At the great elder's command, a total of 500 heavy crossbows were drawn at the same time. 1,500 heavy arrows were aimed at the ice goddess priestess in the air. Release. At the great elder's command, the short spear-like arrows suddenly turned into a rain of arrows that filled the sky with ear-piercing whistling sounds. In the blink of an eye, they covered all the space that the ice goddess priestess could dodge. Even if only one arrow hit her body, with her magician's physique, she wouldn't be able to block it. At this time, the face of the emissary beside the ice goddess priestess had already turned deathly pale. Of course, he knew the power of the heavy crossbows. Powerful? It could only be described as powerful. Two balls of light burst out from the ice goddess priestess's eyes. She stretched out her right hand in front of her chest. Unexpectedly, she didn't control the blizzard to dodge. That golden radiance once again overflowed from her palm. The radiance flickered, completely locking down the surrounding space. In the next moment, the previous feeling of space collapsing appeared once again. It didn't just suck away the magic elements, but also changed the gravity of the area covered by the golden radiance. She just stood there, floating. The 1,500 heavy crossbow arrows could only slide past her body without causing the slightest bit of harm. After the crossbow arrows passed by, the ice goddess priestess immediately controlled the blizzard to send her and that emissary to the ground. Obviously, although this golden radiance was powerful, it also consumed a lot of magic power. She didn't want to become a target for the 5,000 crossbowmen below. The great elder's eyes brightened. He said in a deep voice, "The opportunity has come. Follow me." Naturally, he didn't call those crossbowmen. 11 figures floated up at the same time, 8 in front and 3 behind. They formed a semicircle and surrounded the ice goddess priestess. In such a short distance, it was impossible to delay these swordsman-level experts. Apart from the 7 bloodline elders, there were also the 4 swordsmen sent by First Prince Yenji. Yenji was very clear that if he wanted to sit on the throne for a long time, then he had to quietly get rid of this biggest threat. But was the ice goddess priestess really so easy to deal with? She floated to the ground and waved the golden radiance in her right palm. Immediately, a 3-meter deep crater appeared. The ice goddess priestess waved her left sleeve, and an ice-cold wind sent that emissary into the crater. At the same time, her cold voice sounded, "If you want to live, then wait here." After saying that, she didn't retreat. Instead, she advanced. Her graceful figure danced with the wind, and she went to meet the 7 bloodline elders and the 4 swordsmen. Just as an unprecedented battle was taking place here, the operation in Ice Moon City finally began. The 5,000 elites, secretly trained by First Prince Yenji, set off from every corner of the city at the same time, launching an attack on the palace at lightning speed. They only had one goal, and that was to occupy the palace of the Ice Moon Empire. At this time, where was First Prince Yenji? He was underground, following behind a big rat. Chapter 153. Yenji's location was very simple. He was in the Imperial Palace. To be more precise, he was in the underground of the Imperial Palace. There were more than 500 people with him, including dozens of experts who were supposed to protect him and the 500 blood guards that Marshal Shui had assigned to him. At the very front of the group was a black figure the size of a small mountain. Although his body appeared to be unusually heavy, the speed at which he was advancing was extremely fast. Regardless of whether it was the soil or the rocks, they were all pushed aside by his huge claws as he continued to advance forward. On the back of this huge figure, a black human figure sat quietly. In his hand, he was holding a blade. It was an inconspicuous blade of darkness that was filled with an evil aura. Yenji led his subordinates and followed behind. At this moment, he felt much more at ease. He knew that as long as he could control everything in the palace, the success of this operation would be very easy. What he needed the most now was a handwritten order from his father, Yin Tiannan. He believed that he would succeed. The 5,000 elites that had already launched an attack outside were actually just cannon fodder. Their purpose was to attract the powerful forces of the royal guard in the palace. He did not use the 50,000 people of the Frost Moon Guard because he knew that these 50,000 people were the key to stabilizing the situation. It was not the time to use them. The battle outside the palace was undoubtedly tragic. The 5,000 elites that Yenji had painstakingly nurtured had all taken a special drug before the operation. This drug could fully stimulate the potential of the human body. At the same time, it could also fill one's heart with bloodlust. Although their strength could not be compared to the Royal Guardians, their fearless charge still brought a lot of trouble to the Royal Guardians. If it were not for the fact that the Royal Guardians had the support of many royal magicians, they might not have been able to withstand the charge of the 5,000 elites. After all, the 3,000 elites of the Royal Guardians had been led out of the palace by their leader, Rudolph. Although Yin Tianen had thought things through carefully, he was still seriously ill. It was inevitable that he would overlook something. At the same time, he did not expect his own son to be so bold as to directly send people into the palace. Nian Bing was still channeling Xiantian energy into Yin Tianan's body. Although he did not participate in everything that was happening outside, everything that was happening outside was completely within his control. The ones that helped Yin Ji open up the path were the Shadow Puppet and the Type 5 Dark Demon rat that he controlled with his spirit. They were a surprise attack force, and also the key to this operation. In order to defend against the invasion of foreign enemies, the Royal Guardian Squad had to be deployed in large numbers. This caused the interior of the royal palace to be empty, and Yin Ji happened to appear at this time. There were 3 keys to this operation. The first one was how to break into the Imperial Palace, and the second one was in the 5th Prince's Mansion. In the 5th Prince's Mansion, Yin Yin was filled with excitement when he received the news that the Ice Goddess was about to arrive. He knew that the day he had been looking forward to was about to arrive. Originally, he had already prepared to lead the experts under him directly to the Imperial Palace to wait. However, in the morning, 3,000 people came to his residence. At first, Shi Yin was shocked, but when he found out that it was the Imperial Guard sent by Yin Tianan, he immediately understood what his father meant. He was not in a hurry. He waited in the study, looking forward to the arrival of the Ice Goddess. The news that the Imperial Palace was suddenly attacked quickly reached Yin Yun's ears. He was shocked at first, but he quickly calmed down. He sat on the chair in the study and laughed coldly. Big brother, aren't you too childish? You dare to attack the Imperial Palace directly? You are too bold. Even if most of the forces in Ice Moon City support you, no one will be willing to betray the Empire for you. You want to attack the Imperial Palace alone? Childish, you are too childish. His confidence in the Imperial Palace was not without reason. Not only did the Imperial Guards exist in the Imperial Palace, but the Imperial Palace was also divided into the Outer Palace and the Inner Palace. The distance between the Outer Palace and the Inner Palace was filled with countless traps. Even a top expert would find it difficult to safely enter the Inner Palace through these traps. Not to mention that the first prince only had 5,000 people. Even if there were 50,000 people, they would not be able to pose a threat to the Imperial Palace in a short period of time. Although Yin Yin knew that the commander of the Ice Moon Guard Squad had already sided with the first prince, he also knew that these 50,000 people would not act rashly. Otherwise, it would be a clear rebellion. Now, there was probably no one who would dare to openly rebel. Just this morning, when he received news that the Ice Goddess Priestess was about to arrive, Yin Yin had already sent his subordinates to spread the news. At this time, it was no longer about enduring silently. He believed that as long as one was smart, they would understand what the arrival of the Ice Goddess Priestess meant. Who would dare to go against the Ice Goddess Priestess who could single-handedly destroy an army of 100,000? Moreover, there was still the existence of the Ice God Tower. Therefore, Yin Yin was very calm now. He was only silently waiting for the final moment to arrive. There was a light knock on the door. Without asking, Yin Yin knew who it was. He smiled and said, "Kai Yin, come in. Didn't I tell you before that no matter when you come to see me, you don't have to knock?" The door opened and a tall woman stepped into the room. There was a cup of tea on a tray in her hand. This woman's figure was extremely well proportioned. Her tall figure coupled with her light blue hair made her look exceptionally alluring. Similarly, her blue eyes exuded a gentle light. She wasn't very beautiful, but the elegance she exuded was intoxicating. She was like a pure lily. Silence exuded its own fragrance. Kaiyan took light steps and slowly came to Yin Yun's side. She put down the tray and handed the tea to Yin Yun. With a gentle smile, she said, "Etiquette cannot be discarded. How can I not knock? Although His Highness dotes on me, Kai-Yin cannot overstep her boundaries. Yin-Yun smiled and said, Yin-Er, do you know? What I like the most is your etiquette. Come. He put the teacup aside and pulled Kai-Yin over, letting her sit on his lap. Every time he hugged this alluring figure, his heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. Kai-Yin had already been with him for 3 years. Countless beauties had been by his side, but only Kai-Yin had always been by his side. She was still in a residence. Kai-Yin's tolerance, gentleness, and bashfulness always made him feel a deep affection for her. Kai-Yin had never asked for anything from him, only silently supporting everything he did. Kai-Yin allowed Yin-Yun's hand to wander around her body. Her beautiful face blushed slightly as she placed the teacup in front of Yin-Yun and said softly, Your Highness, you've been feeling uneasy recently. I've brewed a cup of ginseng tea for you. It's made with 100-year-old ginseng as the base. It will help you replenish your origin chi. Drink it while it's hot. Yin-Yun's heart warmed as he took the teacup and said, You know my heart the best. Only when I am with you will I feel comfortable. Yin-Er, today is the most important day of my life. As long as everything is successful, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. Although you are born into poverty, I will at least confer you the title of imperial concubine and have you serve me every day. Kai-Yin gently lowered her head and said, As long as your highness is well, Kai-Yin will be happy. Kai-Yin does not have any other requests. I just hope to be able to see your highness every day. As for status and whatnot, Kai-Yin has never thought about it. Yin-Yun opened the lid of the teacup and took a sip of the tea. A rich fragrance assailed his nostrils. Along with the tea, a wave of warmth spread throughout his body. Immediately, his spirit was aroused. As expected of 100-year-old ginseng, it's so comfortable to drink. Yin-Er, don't worry. No matter what, I will always bring you by my side. Kai-Yin smiled faintly and said, Your Highness, is the ginseng tea tasty? Her smile contained a trace of strangeness. Yin-Yun was slightly stunned. Suddenly, a sense of powerlessness spread throughout his body. He looked at Kai-Yin in shock. During this period of time, in order to guard against the First Prince's schemes, he had been extremely careful. However, he never thought that the woman he trusted the most would actually poison him. Kai-Yin's eyes flashed. Just as Yin-Yun was about to open his mouth and shout, she dislocated his chin. This astute fifth prince could only let out a chuckle. Your Highness, you are still too careless. I have been by your side for 3 years. Don't tell me that I won't make a move on you. Do you want to ask if I was sent by the first prince? No, he doesn't have the ability to make a move on me. Yin-Yun's eyes revealed a trace of sadness. His eyes were filled with intense love as he looked deeply at Kai-Yin. Kai-Yin still had a sweet smile on her face. If you want to ask if I have ever loved you, I can also answer that now. I have never loved you, and it is impossible for me to fall in love with anyone. In your eyes, I'm only a weak little girl. In fact, with your strength, even if you were to fight me head-on, you may not be my match. I cultivate the heartless heart technique, and it is impossible for me to feel love for anyone. I have been hiding by your side only to control everything about you. No matter what, you are my first man and my only man so far. Let me tell you, I'm actually a member of the Bloodline sect. Perhaps this name is unfamiliar to you, but our Bloodline sect has existed for thousands of years. The sky of the Ice Moon Empire is about to change. It is a pity that you have schemed for so many years, but you still can't sit on that position. With a wave of her hand, she pressed Yin-Yun's head. With a puff, Yin-Yun's entire body shook violently. The top of his head completely caved in and blood gushed out from his 7 orifices. Someone as astute as him had ended up like this. Kai-Yin acted as if she had done nothing. She picked up a towel and wiped her hands before slowly walking out of the room. Yin-Yun had instructed that no one was to disturb him without his permission. He had the time to leave. A violent explosion brought with it surging magic elements that flattened a hill. The eyes of the ice goddess priestess were filled with anger. The 8 swordsmen and 3 archmages surrounding her had brought her a lot of trouble, especially the magic of the 3 archmages. She didn't have the energy to launch a more destructive attack against the swordsmen. Even a powerful mage like her couldn't launch her most powerful attack without enough time to chant an incantation. The Great Elder and the others were also surprised. From the time the Ice Goddess Priestess landed until now, they had already launched 3 waves of attacks. The 8 Swordsman's Saint Do Chi was absolutely terrifying, but the Ice Goddess Priestess' right hand kept emitting a strange golden light, repelling them one by one without chanting an incantation. Both sides were panting, gathering their energy in preparation for the next attack. The Great Elder stared at the Ice Goddess Priestess, afraid that she would launch that world-destroying divine general. "Who are you people? How dare you stop me here?" The Ice Goddess Priestess' voice was filled with coldness. The Great Elder smiled indifferently and said, "The Great Priestess naturally wouldn't recognize nobodies like us. You're the most powerful mage in the continent. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful a mage is, without enough time to chant an incantation, they can't display their full strength." The Ice Goddess Priestess sneered. "Do you really think so? Gathering so many experts, it seems that you want to take my life. Since that's the case, I'll let you see the power of a god." The Bloodlion's 7 elders knew that she was about to make her move. The 7 of them had been cultivating together for many years, so they had the same thoughts. Without any warning, they immediately launched their attacks at the same time. Surging Do Chi and gorgeous magic instantly interweaved into a large net that covered the Ice Goddess Priestess. The Ice Goddess Priestess stood there in silence, as if she didn't see anything. Her right hand slowly stretched forward, and a strong golden light burst out from below her chest. The golden light instantly spread to every part of her body. The rich golden light didn't have any magic aura, but the pure energy seemed abnormally strange. At the same time, a light burst out from her lower abdomen, but this light was silver. Together with the strange golden light from her right hand, 2 gold and 1 silver interweaved in the air. The surrounding air suddenly became very cold, and the moisture in the air condensed into fine ice powder. The Ice Goddess Priestess coldly said, "Who told you that mages can't use powerful magic without chanting an incantation?" Ice Goddess Dragon. The white light appeared without any warning. The white light rose in a flash, and the first to suffer was the fire magic launched by the 5th Elder. In the process of the white light turning blue, it was completely offset. That was an offensive magic of the 9th step. 2 gold and 1 silver, 3 rays of light condensed into a white dot in the air. The white dot instantly exploded, and surrounded by the blue light, a dragon's roar resounded. The Ice Goddess Priestess floated in the air again, and a huge blue dragon appeared in front of her. It opened its big mouth, and a breath of ice floated out, enveloping the attacks of the Great Elder and the others. The same Ice Goddess Dragon, but in the hands of the Ice Goddess Priestess and Yin Bing, the effects were completely different. The Ice Goddess Priestess Dragon was a genuine forbidden spell of the 11th step. Wherever the dragon breath passed, all things turned into ice. Even Do Chi seemed to be frozen, and all attacks were completely blocked. That huge blue dragon floated in the air, and a violent ice attack swept towards her enemies. The 7 elders and the 4 swordsmen sent by the Crown Prince all had a change in expression. Using an 11th step forbidden spell without chanting an incantation, what kind of ability was this? They all discovered that they had still underestimated the Ice Goddess Priestess. 2 gold and 1 silver hexagram appeared on the Ice Goddess Priestess' chest, lower abdomen, and right hand respectively. Especially the blue hexagram on her right hand. It looked extremely strange. All the magic elements were released from the combination of these 3 rays of light. In fact, they didn't know that the Ice Goddess Priestess wasn't having a good time right now. Although her magic was very strong, under the pressure of so many martial experts, she didn't have the time to chant an incantation. At this time, the magic she used was released after using her innate chi to convert the magic elements in her body. Although this method didn't require chanting an incantation, it was too harmful to her vitality, causing her innate chi to be greatly depleted. The ice goddess priestess had already opened the Li Zhong acupoint below her chest and the West Meridian acupoint in her lower abdomen. After many years of bitter cultivation, these two acupoints had been cultivated to the middle stage. And the light on her right hand was the sixth acupoint that she had luckily opened during this seclusion, and it was the Huangji acupoint that was known to have the strongest attack. It was a pity that her Huangji acupoint had opened an account. Although she knew how to use it, she couldn't fully display the Huangji acupoint's might. Otherwise, if her Huangji acupoint had also reached the middle stage, she would have been able to use the God's Descent technique just by using her innate qi to convert magic. Facing such a strong enemy, she had no choice but to use a method that consumed her vitality to attack. The sudden appearance of an 11-step forbidden spell forced the Grand Elder and the others to switch from offense to defense. The 11 of them jointly laid down a dozen restrictions to resist the attack of that huge ice dragon. Although the forbidden spell's power was great, its consumption was also enormous. The casting time depended on the ability of the caster. The combined energy of 8 swordsmen and 3 archmages was much greater than that of the ice goddess priestess. This kind of battle of attrition was definitely advantageous to the Grand Elder's side. It was just that they were temporarily unable to launch another attack due to the pressure. They were all waiting for an opportunity. As soon as the ice goddess priestess attack weakened slightly, they would immediately launch an all-out counterattack. However, their hearts were still heavy because they all heard a rhythmic voice. Although the voice of the ice goddess priestess was very cold, it was undoubtedly very pleasant to the ears. Floating behind the ice dragon, she softly chanted, "God says, water is the source of all things in the world. Ice is the original form of water. Pure and full of coldness, ice will extinguish all life. God says stupidity isn't a fault, but the fault lies in the ignorance of stupidity. All blasphemers of God must be punished for their stupidity and must undergo the baptism of reincarnation to end the source of all evil. God says, ice is the weapon of all evil in the world. Ice is the end of all blasphemers. Only by turning into ice can all evil disappear." The coldness in the voice of the ice goddess priestess disappeared. At this moment, she was like a gentle girl pouring out her thoughts. However, as she poured out her thoughts, the sky changed. The originally clear sky gradually darkened, and the originally dazzling sunlight disappeared in the dark clouds. The wind gradually grew stronger, and a bone-piercing cold wind blew. The air gradually became moist, but it wasn't caused by water. Instead, it was caused by the condensation of the water in the air into a large patch of ice powder. Wrapped in a layer of blue halo, the area Tenjiang around the ice goddess priestess completely turned into a huge blue ball of light. Floating in the center of the ball of light, she was as moving as a fairy dancing in ice and snow. Unfortunately, she was a fairy of death in ice and snow. The sky changed. In the change of environment, the originally abnormally powerful ice goddess dragon's attacks became even more berserk. At this moment, the Great Elder already saw that the situation wasn't good. He shouted to the 4 people sent by the first Prince Yin Ji, "Use all your strength. If we don't destroy the 11th step forbidden spell before she completes God's Descent, we'll all be finished." Different colored rays of light lit up from the 11 people, each of them burning all of their energy. The 3 archmages resolutely retreated, resolutely chanting their strongest magic infusion. Although the 2nd Elder, the 5th Elder, and the 6th Elder were only archmages, they had already cultivated in this domain for who knows how many years. Although they hadn't made the final breakthrough, they were definitely the strongest among the archmages. They could also use 11th step forbidden spells. The auras surrounding the 8 swordsmen's bodies turned silver at almost the same time. Saint Aura was their strongest strength, and at the same time, it was also the method of attack that consumed the most of their aura, just like forbidden spells. 8 silver auras simultaneously bombarded the breath of the ice goddess dragon. Under this full force attack, the originally tyrannical ice goddess dragon's radiance immediately dimmed a bit. At the same time as the fire, the ice goddess priestess, who had used a large amount of magic power to cast God's descent, stopped channeling magic power to the ice goddess dragon. The radiance of her 3 major apertures weakened at the same time. 3 rays of light, 2 gold and 1 silver, turned around and condensed into a transparent barrier around the ice goddess priestess. Through the gold, silver, and blue rays of light, her body became even more illusory and filled with a mysterious feeling. The sound of the incantation was drowned out by the clash between the ice goddess dragon and the 8 swordsmen. Only the voice of the ice goddess priestess remained clear. God says, salvation is God's responsibility. The holy ice goddess will sweep away evil from the world. All blasphemers, awaken. God says, the mixture of ice and blood is the source of holiness, just like water is the source of life. It can cleanse everything. The divine will of the ice goddess will illuminate the earth, bringing the purest breath to the world. Forbidden of forbidden, God's descent, snowfall. With a loud bang, the ice goddess dragon was finally completely shattered. Under the attack of the holy aura, and without the support of the ice goddess priestess's massive magic power, it couldn't withstand the full force attack of the 8 swordsmen. 8 silver auras simultaneously bombarded the gold and silver radiance, protecting the ice goddess priestess's body. Magic elements and auras scattered in all directions. Under the floating ice goddess priestess, the aftermath of the shockwave formed a huge crater with a diameter of more than 30 meters and a depth of 15 meters. However, at this time, no one could stop God's descent from happening. In the sky, a crack suddenly appeared in the thick, dark clouds. A blue ray of light shot down and enveloped the ice goddess priestess's body. The ice goddess priestess who was inside the barrier groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. In her hand, there was now a crystal ball, a blue crystal ball. Circles of blue light spread out from her body to the surroundings. Large snowflakes fell from the dark clouds in the sky. The wind had already gone crazy, mixing with the snow and constantly condensing in the air. A wonder appeared. The snowflakes opened up in the air, forming a snow waterfall that was hundreds of meters wide. It rushed down from the sky. It was not just cold, but also not real snowflakes. It was completely condensed from the ice element. The salty light was full of the aura of death. To clear everything was to destroy everything. The true meaning of the god's descent technique was destruction. The ice goddess priestess floated in the air in silence. When the snow waterfall passed by her body, it would naturally make way. Wrapped in the blue light, her face was still as cold as ever, but those deep blue eyes were filled with fanaticism. She had caused a catastrophe. The descent of God's descent made her believe that all enemies who dared to defile her would be destroyed. Not only the 11 experts in front of her, but even the 5 elite ballista soldiers of the Ice Moon Empire would not be spared. In her heart, the word benevolence had never existed. As long as someone dared to violate her, there would only be one result. They would be eliminated by her enormous power of ice and snow. Except for the ice goddess priestess, it was the first time for everyone present to see the descent of God's descent. The snow waterfall that was more than 100 meters wide fell from the sky, like the Milky Way falling from the ninth heaven. Before the snow waterfall fell, the huge pressure had already caused the ballistas to collapse. Although these soldiers were elites, in the face of the destructive power of heaven and earth, what could they do? The extreme cold had already frozen their bodies before the arrival of the snow waterfall. 5,000 lives disappeared in the ice and snow. Monstrous resentment surged up, but even resentment was melted by the extreme cold. God's descent was something that should not have appeared in the human world. Its destructive nature was irresistible. The 4 swordsmen sent by the first prince paled at the same time. Although they would not be frightened by the huge pressure with their Saint Do Chi, they found that their hearts had become as cold as the outside world. Their mobility was suddenly reduced to the minimum. They wanted to run, but they could only walk like a normal person. However, the snow waterfall had already descended. It had completely descended. Although it was the first elder's first time seeing God's descent, he had heard of how the ice goddess priestess used God's descent in the past. According to the legends, the ice goddess priestess chanting lasted for more than an hour. However, this time, the second elder, the fifth elder, and the sixth elder had only just finished chanting the forbidden spell. Judging from his speed, this god's descent did not take longer than the chanting of an 11th grade forbidden spell. The first elder could clearly feel that the ice goddess priestess was no longer the god's descent of the past. Many years of cultivation had already made her stronger. Nian Bing still did not understand the use of acupuncture points. Back then, the 7 Dragon Kings knew that he had just opened the Tianyin acupoint, and that the other acupoint would take a long time to open, so he did not explain anything to him. However, the ice goddess priestess was different. She knew how to use all the acupoints. Opening the Huangji acupoint had brought her to a whole new realm. To be more precise, she was no longer a simple magician. The 3 acupoints in the godly continent were no longer gods, but gods. Yes, the ice goddess priestess now had the qualifications to be called a god in the godly continent. If not for the fact that the enemy today was too strong, she would not have been hurt at all. Darkness, fire, and ice, 3 11th grade forbidden spells were launched at the same time. Ice and fire, in front of the real ice, were almost no resistance and turned into nothingness. The 5th elder and the 6th elder spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. They did not faint because of the 3rd elder and the 4th elder's protection, but their eyes were already showing the light of fear. Only the 2nd elder's forbidden darkness spell was able to defend against it. The snow goddess priestess didn't have Nian Bing's shadow puppet, which had the ability to counter darkness. In a situation where there was no counter to each other, it was a battle of pure energy. Obviously, the energy of God's descent spell wasn't something that a normal forbidden spell could defend against. Even the most powerful forbidden spell, the forbidden darkness spell, couldn't. The 4 ultimate dark nights only delayed the snowfall for a few seconds, then turned back into dark elements and was devoured by the deified ice elements. But it was these few seconds that gave the Bloodline 7 elders a chance. The Grand Elder did not hesitate to send out a signal to retreat. Although their mission was not perfect, at least they had delayed the ice goddess priestess's advance. At this time, he understood very well that on this continent of Yangon, there was no human who could compete with the ice goddess priestess in front of them. God's descent was indeed the power of a god. 7 silver rays of light lit up in the eyes of the 4 swordsmen subordinates of the Crown Prince. Although the god's descent snowfall could block most of the magic elements, it could not stop the magic scroll itself. The 7 silver rays of light took away 7 figures. At the same time, the 4 pitiful swordsmen had disappeared. Their bodies turned into fine powder in the snow, formed by the ice elements and merged with the ice. Under the holy aura of ice, not even the dregs of their souls were left behind. Wherever the snowfall passed, a forbidden area of 10 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide was left behind. No matter if it was animals, plants, or the people from before, everything disappeared in this forbidden area. Looking around, one could only see a straight white passage. The aura of ice caused the Ice Moon Empire to enter winter ahead of time. Not only did it affect the place where God's descent was performed, but it also affected every corner of the Ice Moon Empire. This year's winter came especially early, and it came especially fiercely. All of this was caused by God's descent. Chapter 154. The blue halo gradually faded, and the flawless face of the priestess of the snow goddess became as white as the snow on the ground. As she floated to the ground, she couldn't help but sway a little. She used the magic staff that had appeared in her hand out of nowhere to support her body from falling. Relying on the innate chi to launch the forbidden spell, the ice goddess dragon, to buy time. Then, without hesitation, she launched God's descent. Even with her powerful magic power, it was difficult to support it. She couldn't help but rejoice. Although her vitality was damaged, the injury wasn't serious. It was just that the consumption of magic power was a bit large. She was very clear that if she hadn't opened the Huangji acupoint during the seclusion, she could still win this battle, but the price she would have to pay would be much higher. The Huangji acupoint was indeed worthy of being called the most powerful of the 7 major acupoints. Closing her eyes, the priestess recovered her magic power in this world of ice and snow in silence. The surroundings were filled with the aura of the ice element. The pure ice element left behind in the snow very quickly restored 30% of her magic power, and the injuries in her body were also much better. At this moment, not far behind the priestess, a patch of snow moved. A person drilled out of the snow. It was the emissary from before. At this moment, his face was already purple from the cold, and his whole body was trembling nonstop. If it wasn't for the do-chi he had cultivated since childhood protecting his internal organs, perhaps he would have already become an ice sculpture by now. God's descent. Even if the priestess had enormous spiritual power, she could only control the direction of the attack. Far behind the god's descent, the emissary was only left with one life. He had seen the people who attacked the priestess, and he was very clear about their strength. However, in front of the god's descent, no less than 5,000 people disappeared just like that. Looking at the back of the priestess, standing 100 feet away, his body couldn't help but tremble even more violently. She was a god. She was a god, not a human. At this moment, the emissary only had this thought in his mind. Master! Dozens of silhouettes rushed towards the direction of the ice goddess priestess. Flying at the very front was Frozen Cloud, who was riding a blizzard. The priestess of the snow goddess slowly opened her eyes. Although she was still very weak, and her vitality had yet to recover to its peak state, the 30% of her magic power that she had recovered was enough to contend against an archmage and win easily. Seeing the panicked expression on Bing Yun's face, the snow goddess priestess revealed a rare smile. Bing Yun quickly landed in front of the snow goddess priestess. She walked up to her master in a few steps and knelt on the ground. She choked and said, "Sir Chuan, Bing Yun is late. Are you okay?" The ice goddess priestess helped Bing Yun up from the ground and said indifferently, "Do you think there is anyone on this continent who can hurt me?" Although she was indeed injured, the pride in her heart made her unwilling to admit this fact. Bing Yun let out a sigh of relief. She turned around and glanced at the members of the Ice God Tower who had come with her. At this time, the mages of the Ice God Tower were all kneeling on the ground. They didn't even dare to raise their heads, afraid that the Ice Goddess Priestess would vent her anger on them. "Sir Chuan, we were originally waiting at the north gate of Ice Moon City to welcome your arrival. However, I suddenly saw the weather change here and felt your aura. That's why I felt that something was wrong. Just who was it that made you use God's descent?" The Ice Goddess Priestess's face turned cold. She said coldly, "Who else could it be? It's the subordinates of the princes of the Ice Moon Empire. However, I didn't expect these princes to have such power. They actually invited 3 archmages, 1 swordsman, and 7 swordsmen. If it weren't for so many experts, how could I use God's descent?" "Bing Yun, how is the situation in Ice Moon City?" Bing Yun froze for a moment. She shook her head and said, "I'm not as good as you. Didn't you teach your disciple not to interfere with the matters of the Ice Moon Empire?" "I know. It must be the first prince's people." The emissary had recovered a bit under the effect of his fighting aura. He hurried behind the Ice Goddess Priestess and said respectfully. A cold light flashed in the Ice Goddess Priestess's eyes. "Good. What a great first prince. He even used his schemes on me. Let's go to Ice Moon City. I want to see what other surprises this first prince can bring me." Rudolph didn't come with Bing Yun. Due to the influence of the snowfall, the temperature outside the north gate of Ice Moon City suddenly dropped. Other than these ice mages, even a powerful swordsman like Rudolph felt very uncomfortable. However, Rudolph didn't expect that when the weather changed outside the city, the 5th prince that Yin Tianan asked him to protect had already lost his life. Everything was developing according to the Blood Lion cult's plan. Underground of the Ice Moon Empire's palace, the first prince, who had been advancing in the dark, could only see the light in front of him with the help of the magic gemstones he carried with him. The dark and damp underground made him feel very uncomfortable. However, even if the discomfort was twice as bad, he could still endure it. He was very nervous, but also a bit excited. Would he succeed today? If he succeeded, his dream would be fulfilled. Presumably, his subordinates had already launched a fierce attack on the palace. At this time, the inner palace was the most empty. Marshal Snowsoul's guest was really a genius. He could actually think of a way to advance underground to avoid the traps above ground. And he even found such a strange magic beast. Once he sat on the throne, he would have to make good use of this person. Just as he was thinking about this, the dark demon rat, which had been advancing rapidly, suddenly stopped. Then, the dark demon rat's huge body burrowed upwards. Fresh air and sunlight shone down from above, making the stuffy first prince feel much better. It was finally here. The nervousness in his heart was reduced by a lot at this moment, and his excitement was greatly increased. Follow me and rush out. If we succeed today, all participants will be rewarded 100 gold coins. As he said this, he led dozens of experts and rushed out of the underground cave. After them, the Hall Master of the Bloodlion cult's Ice Moon Hall, Intu, led 500 blood guards. Intu was not in a hurry. He gestured to the blood guards behind him, and all of them stopped in an orderly manner without making a sound. The dark demon rat's huge body turned into energy and disappeared into the gemstone on the handle of the demon-devouring blade in the shadow puppet's hand. The shadow puppet's figure flashed and rushed into the depths of the palace. He was like a faint black smoke, and no one could catch up with his speed. Intu heard the angry shouts and the clashing of weapons from above. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Pass down the order. All blood guards are to charge into the palace and try to minimize the losses. Quick!" After saying this, he was the first to rush out. Under the protection of swordsman's Saint Warrior Chi, he rushed to the surface. The blood guards of the Bloodline Hall were all dressed in the same way. Every one of them was wearing a dark red, tight-fitting suit with a bright red lion embroidered on the left side of their chests. The edges of the embroidery were outlined with golden threads. Their weapons were the same as well. They were thin swords that were completely black like poisonous snakes. Not only did the black color of the thin swords not reflect light, but each of the thin swords also carried a lethal poison that could kill upon contact with blood. The lethal poison was not only for the enemy, but also for themselves at the same time. The 500 blood guards were so fast that they formed a sharp cone in the blink of an eye. At this time, the experts under the first prince's command had already dealt with the first batch of enemies after they came to the surface. Yanji did not have the time to blame the blood guards for their slow appearance. He immediately led his men into the palace, and wherever they passed, no one was left alive. He knew very well that the most important thing for him was time. Once the 10,000 royal guardians dealt with the cannon fodder outside and came back to rescue him, he would not stand a chance with just a few hundred men. The charge into the inner palace did not encounter too many obstacles. Although the guards left behind by the royal guard were also strong, in front of the 500 blood guards that the Bloodline Hall had painstakingly nurtured, they were far inferior in terms of both numbers and strength. The blood guards' average strength was not very strong, but they were extremely vicious. Relying on the poisoned swords in their hands and their extreme speed, they did not stop at all and rushed into the inner palace in the blink of an eye. Yanji was overjoyed to see the bravery of the blood guards. He did not expect everything to go so smoothly. He did not expect Rudolph to have taken away most of the royal guardians' elites. The dark demon rats appeared in the center of the inner palace. It did not take much time for them to reach the vicinity of Yin Tiannan's bedroom. What made Yanji's heart ache was that the blood guards had indeed carried out the order he had given before coming here. They did not leave behind a single word. Even those pretty maids were not spared. For a moment, the entire palace was filled with a murderous aura. The shadow puppet was about to return to Nian Bing's side under the control of Nian Bing's psychic power. It quickly flashed into the palace, but suddenly stopped. It looked at the demon-devouring blade in its hand suspiciously. The demon-devouring blade trembled violently. With a flash of light, the dark demon rat's huge body broke free from the demon-devouring blade's control and appeared on the ground. The shadow puppet stared blankly at the dark demon rat. Just as it was about to forcibly put the dark demon rat back into the demon-devouring blade, the ground in front of it suddenly moved. A black figure crawled out from the ground. It was a black rat that looked exactly the same as the dark demon rat, but it was dozens of times smaller. With a flash of light, a large cockroach crawled out from behind the black rat. The large cockroach emitted a layer of black aura. A little girl walked out from the black light. Tian, Brother Nian Bing isn't here. Why did you come out? The girl who suddenly appeared was Kitty. She looked around but didn't find Nian Bing. She couldn't help but blame Tian. The dark demon rat squeaked and suddenly pounced on the huge dark demon rat. The huge dark demon rat that broke free from the demon-devouring blade also squeaked. It lay on the ground and kept rubbing its head against Tian's body. Kitty was stunned. Wow, isn't this the 5th grade dark demon rat that Brother Nian Bing tamed? Did I guess right? It's your mother? Tian leaned against the big dark demon rat and nodded. Her eyes were filled with affection. Dark demon rats were very sensitive to auras, especially when they were connected by blood. The 2 dark demon rats were reunited under such circumstances. Due to Shadow Puppet's fast speed, he was the first to arrive. At this moment, the dark demon rat's huge body immediately attracted the attention of the palace guards. A large number of guards swarmed over. At this moment, the first Prince Ji and the Blood Guard arrived. Kitty saw a horrifying scene for the first time in her life. Blood dyed almost every corner of the ground red. One life after another disappeared before her eyes. Kitty's expression was a little dazed at first. Then she screamed and fainted. The shadow puppet jumped in fright. Its solid body moved, and a low voice came out of its mouth. She actually fainted. It seems that I have to send her back. Its voice was very low, and it was filled with the aura of death. His eyes flashed, and he looked at Tian and Xiang. Since the 2 of you can bring her here, you can bring her back. Lead the way. Tian and Xiang's bodies trembled, but neither of them dared to disobey the orders of the shadow puppets. The cockroach once again carried Kitty on its back, and Tian looked at her mother with some reluctance before burrowing back into the ground. The shadow puppet floated onto the big dark demon rat's back. The big dark demon rat followed closely behind Tian and Xiang. In the palace, Nian Bing's body suddenly trembled. He was shocked to find that he had lost contact with the shadow puppet again. At the same time, he felt that the first prince and the others had already arrived in the inner palace. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. What was wrong with the shadow puppet? If the first prince knew that this shadow puppet formed from energy could speak, how shocked would he be? Tian calmly lay on his bed, but his expression was very ugly. Although Nian Bing's innate qi had temporarily stabilized his illness, he couldn't help but be furious when he heard that the outer palace had been attacked. Of course, he knew that this was his eldest son's doing. Ji's boldness greatly disappointed him. Feng seemed to know nothing about the outside world. He only consoled his father in a low voice. Tian also believed him, although they had left the 3,000 elite royal guards, with the remaining 7,000 people. Even if the Frost Moon Guards attacked with 50,000 soldiers, they wouldn't be able to break through the palace's defensive line. Moreover, the Ice Goddess Priestess was about to arrive. Once she arrived, all the danger would be easily resolved. Just as Tian's heart was in turmoil, the door of the palace was kicked open with a bang. Dozens of blood-red figures, accompanied by a faint silver light, attacked the 8 guards in the palace in the blink of an eye. These 8 guards all had the strength of a pugilist. However, under the attack of the blood guards' poisoned swords and swordsmen's silver daggers, they were quickly injured. Facing the poisoned swords, even if they were only slightly injured, there would only be one result: death. The blood guards didn't stop after taking care of the 8 guards. They quickly killed all the maids in the palace before lining up in 2 neat rows outside. The inner palace had been breached in less than the time it took to eat a meal. At this moment, the royal guards outside hadn't received the news yet. How could the people who came occasionally be a match for the blood guards outside? Ji, dressed in martial attire, walked in from outside. He specially wore a golden battlesuit today. The scarlet cloak fluttered arrogantly behind him. The moment he walked into the palace, he suddenly felt that he was filled with the feeling of a monarch overlooking the world. This feeling was so wonderful. He finally got it. He finally got everything. The thing that he had been looking forward to for many years was now in front of him. Yanji's heart almost burst from excitement. He walked with firm and trembling steps toward the huge dragon bed in the palace. Yin Feng suddenly stood up. Weapons were not allowed in the palace. He released his fighting energy and stood in front of the bed, staring at Yanji. Yanji smiled and said, "Hello, seventh brother. Seventh brother, I have something to say to Imperial Father. You can go to the side first." Without waiting for Yin Feng to reply, Yin Dagger suddenly leaped to Yin Feng's side and chopped Yin Feng's neck with his palm. Yin Feng's body went soft and fell to the ground. Yin Ji was stunned and looked at Yin Dagger suspiciously. Yin Dagger said in a low voice, "Your Highness, now is not the time to waste. Let's quickly settle everything." Yin Ji's heart was filled with excitement, so he didn't think too much. He allowed Yin Dagger to move Yin Feng to the side. Then, he took 2 steps forward and walked to the front of the bed. Although Nian Bing had changed her clothes today, he still recognized her temperament. Nian Bing nodded gently behind Yin Tiannan, indicating that he could begin. Yin Tiannan's face had turned slightly pale because of his anger. He raised a trembling finger and pointed at Yin Ji. Good. Are you trying to rebel by bringing so many people into the palace?" Yin Ji smiled and said, "No, I'm a member of the Imperial family. What's there to rebel? Imperial Father, I came here today to take back what belongs to me in the first place. This isn't too much, is it? Perhaps you're wondering how I came in. You've underestimated your son. Since you're not benevolent, how can you blame me for being unjust? If I remember correctly, you used the same method to sit on the throne, and your son inherited your glorious tradition." He waved his hand, and Yin Dagger immediately retreated with the blood guards. Only the experts Yin Ji brought with him were left in the bedchamber. Yin Tianan felt his vision darken, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Nian Bing, who was behind him, quickly increased the speed of the infusion of Xiantian Qi to stabilize his injuries. Yin Tianan heaved a long sigh. Retribution. This is really retribution. I never thought that I would end up in such a situation. Where's Little Five? Has Little Five been harmed by you? Yin Ji smiled coldly and said, "Father, I don't understand. They're both your sons. Why are you so biased? I'm the eldest son, but you want to pass the throne to Little Five. When I came here, your 5th son had probably gone to find second brother. No matter what, I have to avenge second brother. Imperial Father, I'm the only one who can inherit your throne. Perhaps you think I'm despicable, but I'm despicable because of your blood. You don't have the chance to choose a strong successor. Send down the imperial edict." When he mentioned Yin Tiannan's favor to Yin Yun, a trace of resentment appeared in his eyes. Yin Tiannan's entire body was trembling and tears flowed from his eyes. Yin'er is dead. Yin is also dead. Retribution. This is really retribution. Didn't I also kill my own brother when I was fighting for the throne? I never thought that retribution would come to me when I'm old. Good. Yinji, you're ruthless. Do you know why I don't like you? It's because you're too short-sighted. You can only see the benefits in front of you. Yin'er is much smarter than you. At least, his vision is much bigger than yours. He's outstanding in all aspects. If he inherits my throne, the Ice Moon Empire will definitely become stronger. You can't. Yinji was furious. You're still thinking about that bastard even at this time. He even killed second brother. Do you still think he's far-sighted? Yin Tiannan looked coldly at Yinji. It wasn't killed by Yin. I understand Yin'er's character. However, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. If Yin'er hadn't died and Yin'er hadn't been pressured from all sides, you might not have the chance today. Yinji was already somewhat impatient. Although there were 11 experts hunting down the Ice Goddess priests, he still felt uneasy. Once the Ice Goddess priests arrived, he would have no chance at all. There's no meaning in saying all this now. My great father, it's time for you to give up your position. Even if I'm as short-sighted as you say, now that second brother and 5th brother are dead, there's no one more suitable than me to sit in your position. No matter what, I'm still your son. I've inherited the purest bloodline of the Yin royal family. There's no need to say more. Write the imperial edict." Saying so, he gave a look to his subordinates. Immediately, someone handed an empty imperial edict to Yin Tiannan. As long as he had the imperial edict and the imperial jade seal of the Ice Moon Emperor, he could be considered to have secured the imperial throne. With the Ice Goddess Priest's character of never participating in the Empire's political affairs, even if she came, she wouldn't be able to change the facts. Yanji had only dispatched death warriors. Even if the Ice Goddess Priest guessed that he was the culprit, they wouldn't have any evidence. Yin Tiannan's complexion turned rosy, and his spirit seemed to have improved a lot. Behind him, Nian Bing could clearly feel that his metabolism was increasing. Nian Bing understood that this was a sign of terminal lucidity. Yin Tiannan's body finally couldn't hold on any longer. Yin Tiannan couldn't die yet. He hurriedly increased the innate energy input. At the same time, he used the mimicry magic to transfer healing water and light essence into his body, maintaining his broken body. What if I don't write this imperial edict? I'm the only one who knows where the imperial jade seal is. I've already foreseen this day, so I hid the imperial jade seal. As long as you don't get the imperial jade seal, you won't be able to sit on the imperial throne. Yin Tiannan's voice became even colder. As he said that, he turned his head and shot a glance at Nian Bing, his eyes revealing a trace of gratitude. With a swish, Yin Ji unsheathed the sword at his waist, his face revealing a sinister expression. "Imperial Father, then don't blame me for not taking into account the relationship between father and son." Yin Tiannan revealed a bitter smile. "Relationship between father and son? You don't deserve to say these words. I'm about to die, so it doesn't matter whether I die early or late. If you have the ability, then kill me. Go ahead and kill me. The imperial family is so corrupt. I'd rather watch the Ice Moon Empire fall into chaos than pass the imperial throne to a bastard like you, who killed his brother and his father." Inji stared blankly for a moment. Only now did he realize that Yin Tiannan wasn't afraid of death. What was there to fear from a dying man? Gradually, a sinister smile appeared on his face. "Imperial Father, you're too childish. I've been planning for so many years. Do you think that I won't have any other means if you don't take out those things? I've already prepared a fake imperial edict and a fake imperial jade seal. Even if you don't hand over the East, those things won't leave the imperial palace. It won't be too late for me to find them after I take the imperial throne. Since you want to die, I'll send you to see Little Five." In fact, he shouldn't kill Yin Tiannan now. At least, he shouldn't do it himself. Otherwise, how could the scars on Yin Tiannan's corpse not give him away? However, at this moment, Yin Ji's desire for power had driven him crazy. Without caring about anything else, he thrust his sword forward and stabbed at Yin Tiannan. Yin Tiannan's heart was filled with unwillingness, but how could he dodge with his seriously ill body? He looked at his own son with hatred, waiting for the moment of death to come. At this critical moment, a figure suddenly rushed over from his side. "No, you can't kill Imperial Father." With a puff, blood splattered. The sword in Yin Ji's hand pierced directly into the chest of Yin Feng, who had been knocked unconscious earlier and suddenly rushed over. Blood dyed Yin Feng's clothes red. A smile appeared on Yin Feng's face. It seemed to be a smile of relief. Yin Ji said in shock, "Seventh brother, what are you doing?" Although he didn't have any feelings for Yin Feng, Snow Soul was of great value to him. That was why he had spoken to Yin Feng. However, he never expected that Yin Feng, who was supposed to be on the same side as him, would suddenly rush over and block his sword. On the bed, Yin Tiannan's face was covered in blood from Yin Feng's back. He clearly saw the tip of the sword piercing through Yin Feng's back. In an instant, the hatred in his heart turned into panic. "No, Fenger, how could you be so stupid?" At this moment, Yin Bing moved. He floated away from Yin Tiannan's back and slapped Yin Feng's back. With a poof, a pure light element entered Yin Feng's body, knocking Yin Ji's longsword away. At the same time, the light element stopped the blood from gushing out of Yin Feng's mouth. Yin Feng's body softly fell to the ground. On the bed, Yin Tiannan shouted loudly, "Sir, you must save my son." Yin Bing's left hand was water and right hand was light. Two kinds of magical elements filled with healing power entered Yin Feng's body at the same time, instantly healing his wounds. However, because Yin Feng had lost too much blood in that instant, his face became extremely pale. His body softly lay in Yin Bing's embrace. Yin Ji naturally wouldn't stop Yin Bing's actions. He didn't want Yin Feng to die either. At this moment, without Yin Bing's support, Yin Tiannin had already laid back down on the bed. His despairing eyes were filled with a trace of warmth. He had never thought that any of his sons would be willing to sacrifice their lives for him. However, the son in front of him that he had always forgotten had done it. His heart hurt. It hurt because of Yin Ji, and at the same time, it hurt because of Yin Feng. He regretted not being able to see everything clearly. He had already forgotten everything now. He could only stare at Yin Feng, praying for this son that was truly his son. Yin Tiannin had already thrown caution to the wind, but Yin Ji couldn't forget his goal. He brandished his sword again, and the blade shone brightly. This time, he had already used his fighting aura. He had to kill Yin Tiannin no matter what. With a flick of his wrist, a beam of fighting aura directly slashed towards the defenseless Yin Tiannin on the bed. Yin Tiannin didn't see Yin Ji's attack. In his eyes, there was only Yin Feng, his son who was willing to sacrifice his life for him. However, while Yin Tiannin didn't see it, Yin Bing did. Without any warning, a seven-colored light floated out. The faint light was like a thick liquid. Even Swordsman's attack was greatly weakened by Yin Bing's inner eye, let alone the first Prince Yin Ji. Compared to his cunning fighting aura, his fighting aura was too weak. Without any suspense, his fighting aura disappeared. Yin Ji was shocked. Before he could react, Yin Bing, who had finished treating Yin Feng's injuries, had already stood up. At this moment, his eyes were filled with terrifying, murderous intent. The greatest pain in Yin Bing's heart was that he had lost his parents when he was young. Therefore, even if Yin Feng had affected his plan for the sake of family, he would not regret it. At the same time, Yin Ji was actually going to kill his father with his own hands. This filled his heart with anger. He wanted so much to be with his father, but this scum in front of him actually attacked his father. Just as Yin Ji was about to attack, he suddenly felt his entire body tremble. It was as if his body had been frozen. He was surrounded by an unknown force. 6 light shadows separated from Yin Bing's body at the same time. They were like his clones. In an instant, they expanded to the entire bedroom and reached their fastest speed. Within the inner eye's inner eye, each light shadow carried a different colored blade. The blade light drew a beautiful arc in the air. Each ray of light clearly carried a blood-red luster. The experts who had followed Yin Ji here became corpses in this faint, cold light. They all died in the same way. Each of them had a cut on their necks. However, some of the cuts were spurting blood, some were frozen, and some were completely charred. This was caused by the pure magical elements of the 6 elements. The magical blade light emitted by the 6 divine blades was the judge of their lives. Chapter 155. Yin Ji wanted to speak, but he was met with a huge pressure. He saw Yin Bing's eyes, those pure blue eyes. Yin Bing's eyes were so deep that he was stunned. His soul was completely suppressed by the spiritual power from his Tianyin acupoint. The last thing Yin Ji saw in his life was the young man in front of him whom he wanted to rope in. A white light about an inch long suddenly lit up between his eyebrows. Immediately after, the white light opened up, revealing a silver eye. Yes, a silver eye. Yin Bing's hand slapped out. He didn't use magic because he felt that it would be too easy for Yin Ji. Although he didn't know any martial arts, he had been practicing cooking since he was young, so his attack speed was many times faster than ordinary people. Although he couldn't control his body to do all kinds of difficult moves like Oscar, when faced with an immobile target, his dragon's physique and dragon strength were like a talisman to Yin Ji's death. Boom! Following a loud sound, Yin Ji clearly heard the sound of his sternum breaking. His Do Chi had attributes, and under the suppression of the Tianyin domain, he couldn't protect himself at all. Even if he could use Do Chi, with his current level of cultivation, he might not be able to block Nian Bing's punch. The intense pain caused Yin Ji's vision to turn black. Gradually, his body became numb, and he felt very cold. What appeared in front of him was a hell filled with blood. Looking at Yin Ji's collapsed chest and seeing him spit out a mist of blood, Nian Bing felt a sense of excitement. But he didn't stop, nor did he enjoy this feeling. He quickly returned to the bedside and helped Yin Tianen up. He increased the amount of Xiantian Qi he injected into Yin Tianen and pulled Yin Tianen back from the brink of death. Yin Tianen gasped for air. When he lost Nian Bing's support, he felt that his soul was about to leave his body. Fortunately, Nian Bing came back in time and pulled his soul back. Nian Bing sighed and said, "Your Majesty, you were frightened. I killed your son." Yin Tianen revealed a trace of a smile. "I'm not a good father, but it was good to kill him. He's dead. Maybe I can teach him how to be a human once he's in the underworld. Even I can learn how to be a proper person. Can you tell me your name?" Nian Bing was stunned for a moment, because he actually felt the same radiance from Yin Tianen as his father. "My name is Nian Bing." Yin Tianen smiled and nodded. Thank you. I'm not thanking you for saving me, but for saving my only son. Only he is fit to be my son." Yin Tianen's eyes were filled with kindness as he looked at Yin Feng, who was struggling to get up from the ground. Although Yin Feng still felt extremely weak after Nian Bing's treatment, he was much better than before. "Father, don't speak. Rest for a while," he said with difficulty. Yin Tianen shook his head and said, "No, let me say it. If I don't say it now, I'm afraid I won't have a chance anymore." His face had become even redder than before. Even though Nian Bing had increased the amount of Xiantian Qi he injected into the old man, and the two elements of ice and light were healing him, Nian Bing knew very well that this old man, who seemed to have come to his senses, could no longer continue living. Yin Feng's eyes reddened. Looking at Yin Tianen, who was about to reach the end of his life, he choked and said, "Father, do you know how long I've waited for you to call me your son? Since I was young, the only one who truly loved me was my mother, but she passed away just like that. Father, do you know how much I yearn for your fatherly love?" Yin Tianen looked at Yin Feng kindly. "I know, I also understand. Child, the mistakes your father has made in this life can only be made up for in the next life. Remember your father's words. Live well and be a good emperor. Don't be like me, leaving behind so many disasters. I believe that with your benevolence, you will definitely do better than me. Child, do you know how satisfied your father is right now? I don't even hate your elder brother anymore, because today, I finally saw the familial love I've yearned for. In this life, from the day I was born, I've always done wrong. But the most correct thing I've done was to rape your mother when I was drunk and bring you into this world. In the past, your father couldn't make it up to you. Now that they're all dead, the only thing your father can do is to pass on what they wanted to get to you. Are you willing?" Although Yin Feng and Nian Bing had already planned all of this, at this time his throat was choked with sobs, and he couldn't say the word yes. Looking at Yin Tianen's gradually darkening eyes, tears flowed uncontrollably from Yin Feng's eyes. With a bang, the door outside was knocked open. A large number of guards rushed in from outside. The leader was the Royal Guardian Regiment's commander, Rudolph, the Ice Goddess Priestess, and Bing Yun. "Your Majesty!" Rudolph cried out in grief and rushed to the side of the bed as fast as he could. When they discovered that the fifth prince had died tragically in the mansion, they immediately felt that something was wrong. After rushing back as fast as they could, with the help of the Ice Goddess Priestess and a large number of experts from the Ice God Tower, they quickly cleared out Yin Ji's subordinates who were constantly attacking outside the palace. Rudolph had a strong feeling that something was wrong. He rushed into the palace as fast as he could. When he saw the corpses in the inner palace, his heart was filled with horror. He knew that the thing he was most afraid of had happened. He didn't encounter any resistance because the Blood Lion cult blood guards had already slowly retreated through the passage opened by the Dark Commander Rats after dealing with the remaining Royal Guardian Regiment guards in the inner palace. The moment they rushed into the bedroom, Rudolph's heart was filled with sorrow. "I'm not dead yet. Why are you crying?" Yin Tianen looked at Rudolph, who had rushed to the side of the bed, and smiled. At this moment, He had already seen through everything. To him, death wasn't scary. Frozen Cloud looked suspiciously at Nian Bing, who was supporting Yin Tiannan. Nian Bing nodded lightly at her. When he saw the shock in Frozen Cloud's eyes, he wanted to smile. However, Yin Tiannan's words kept ringing in his ears, so he couldn't smile. Yin Tiannan's gaze turned to the ice goddess priestess. "You're here." The ice goddess priestess's figure flashed, and she arrived in front of Yin Tiannan's bed. "It seems that I'm not late." Nian Bing finally saw the enemy in his heart. The ice goddess's beautiful appearance couldn't reduce his hatred in the slightest. He hurriedly lowered his head, afraid that the ice goddess priestess would see his hate-filled eyes. Yin Tianan smiled and said, "It's all thanks to this gentleman brought by Feng, who eliminated the rebels, that I could see you one last time. Priestess, I'm going. I hope you can make the decision for the Ice Moon Empire, okay?" The fire snow goddess priestess looked at the sincere smile on Yin Tiannan's face and couldn't help but be stunned. She had known Yin Tianan for a long time, but this was the first time she saw such a pure smile on his face. Subconsciously, she nodded. Yin Tianan took a deep breath and forced himself to be spirited. He said intermittently, Jin, the fight for the throne, killed his own brother, tired. Rudolph, eliminate his remaining party, I'll leave to you. I'm dying. But I found my only son when Yin Ji wanted to kill me. Feng'er used his own body to block his sword. He has used his own actions to prove everything to me. For now, I announce that Feng'er will inherit the throne of the Ice Moon Empire and become the new generation's emperor. I'll have to trouble Priestess and Rudolph. You must assist him well. Do you know? Even though I'm going to die, but today is the happiest day of my life. To be able to die like this, I'm already very satisfied." He didn't finish his last word. At the last moment, he pointed at his pillow and passed away in Yin Bing's arms. After losing his breath, he calmly closed his eyes with a faint smile on his face. 2 drops of tears rolled down his cheeks. His complicated life had finally come to an end. Silence. The bedchamber was filled with silence. At this moment, everyone became sluggish. "Father, Emperor," Yin Feng cried out in grief. He and Yin Bing had already planned for him to suddenly wake up from his coma and block the attack for Yin Tianan. Otherwise, how could he have coincidentally woken up at the right time without being injured in any vital areas? But when Yin Tianan really died in front of him, Yin Feng's heart was filled with sorrow. His vision turned black, and he fainted. Yin Bing stood up and carefully helped Yin Tianan lie down on the bed. No matter what he did wrong in this life, at least his last decision was very correct. Everything had been completed according to Yin Bing's plan. But he didn't have a trace of excitement in his heart. Seeing all the darkness in the palace, he suddenly wanted to leave this city and find Feng Nu, find Long Ling, and find his parents. Everything was over. At the same time, it was also a new beginning. With the support of the Ice Goddess Priestess and Rudolph giving Yin Tiannan's final order, Yin Feng became the new emperor of the Ice Moon Empire. His ascension to the throne naturally attracted the dissatisfaction of many people, especially the direct descendants of the Empress and the first prince. After learning that the first Prince Yanji had died, the Empress prepared to launch a coup like a madwoman. However, the Ice Moon Guard Group, which had originally sided with them, suddenly stood on Yin Feng's side. The blood-sucking destroyer, General Gue Shui, also called back the troop stationed in her camp. After a month of bloody suppression in Ice Moon City, the chaos was finally quelled. In this turmoil, a full 1/3 of the officials disappeared from the political stage of the Ice Moon Empire. In the palace of the Ice Moon Empire, Yin Tiannan's women also disappeared under Yin Feng's ruthless methods. All of this was done in secret. When Yin Feng took the Empress's head as a sacrifice to his mother, he changed. He was no longer the Yin Feng of the past. Instead, he became the true emperor of the Ice Moon Empire, the new emperor of the generation. After a month, when everything had settled down, Yin Feng gave out a few orders. First, establish the military department of the Ice Moon Empire and lead Snow Soul. The marshal that supported the first Prince Yin Ji was executed because he followed the empress and rebelled. The other marshal also stepped down from the political stage because of the death of the fifth prince. All the military power was temporarily controlled by Snow Soul alone. He appointed Snow Soul's daughter, Shuiyu, as the empress of the empire. At the same time, Yin Feng announced that he would marry Long Ling, the daughter of the president of the Ice Moon Empire's Magician Guild, and Yin Bing. He also appointed Yin Bing as the chief court magician. This wasn't opposed by the Ice Goddess Priestess because her status was high. Naturally, she wouldn't be interested in a small official position. That day, although she felt that Yin Bing had a special magic, the situation was tense, so she didn't have time to ask Yin Bing about it. Also, Bing Yin didn't expose Yin Bing in front of her. Following Snow Soul's suggestion, Yin Feng continuously gave out many new orders. With the support of the finance minister, he reorganized the originally chaotic politics and replaced all of them with Snow Soul's people. Of course, he didn't know that more than 80% of the new people he appointed had the two words Bloodlion in their background. Yin Feng succeeded. As the leader of the Bloodlion sect, Yin Bing also succeeded. Just like that, under the eyes of the Ice Goddess Priestess, she secretly controlled the entire Ice Moon Empire. It could be said that now, Yin Bing's orders were much more effective than Yin Feng's. The internal strife of the Ice Moon Empire ended. At the same time, Long Ling's matter also had a perfect ending. During this turbulent month, Yin Bing didn't leave Ice Moon City. He didn't see Bing Yun again and didn't enter the palace again. Even on the day Yin Feng appointed him as the chief court magician, he didn't go. Today, he was cultivating with Kitty in the secret room of the Ice Moon Hall. Yin Bing learned the true strength of the Ice Goddess Priestess through the exchange with the Blood Lion Seven Elders. When he guessed that the Ice Goddess Priestess had already opened 3 apertures and 6 apertures, he had no choice but to reconsider the plan that he originally wanted to give up after being provoked by Yin Tianan. Right now, he was just waiting for an opportunity. Bing Yin also didn't look for Ling Bing. In order to help Yin Feng, the Ice Goddess Priestess temporarily stayed in Ice Moon City. Bing Yin always wanted to wait until Shi Chuan decided to return to the Ice God Tower to tell her everything. Subconsciously, she always wanted to delay all of this. However, she didn't know that this delay caused Yin Bing to not be threatened by the Ice Goddess Priestess and leave. From then on, Bing Yin's life's fate was changed. Brother, I kind of miss Mom and Dad. Really, they actually didn't come to find Kitty. Kitty lowered her head and looked at Yin Bing, who just woke up from cultivation. Yin Bing smiled and said, "Silly girl, how does Uncle Shi know where you are? Even if he wants to find you, he can't find you." Kitty shook her head and said, "No, he can't. As long as we are related by blood, we can feel where each other is. With Dad's spiritual power, even if we are thousands of miles away, he can still find my location." Is Dad angry with Kitty and doesn't want Kitty anymore? That day, after Kitty woke up, she found that she had inexplicably returned to the room. Even the hole in the ground was filled. She really didn't understand what was going on. When she thought of the blood she saw, she was extremely scared, so she didn't tell Yin Bing about what happened that day. She just asked Yin Bing to let the shadow puppet who had regained control release the big dark magic rat so that they could reunite. Unfortunately, the big dark magic rat had been lightly sealed by the shadow puppet, and Tian Tian and Kitty also had a master-slave contract, so the mother and son could not really be together. Yin Bing said with a smile, "How can that be? Uncle Shi loves you too much. How can he not want you? How about this, Kitty? Brother will send someone to take you home tomorrow, okay?" If it was before, Kitty would have thought of all kinds of ways to evade, but this time she nodded gently. It was the first time she had been away from home for so long, and she had played enough. She missed her father so much that she couldn't wait to go back. "Brother, aren't you going to send Kitty? Kitty wants to go home while eating the food you made." Yin Bing rubbed Kitty's soft long hair and said with a smile, "It's not that brother doesn't want to send you back. It's because brother still has a lot of things to do. I can't send you back. Kitty, be good. If there's a chance in the future, brother will definitely go and see you, okay?" Kitty nodded and said, "Okay." "Oh, brother, if Kitty leaves, will Sister Bingyin come and catch you? She promised Kitty that as long as Kitty is here, she won't catch you. How about I stay? Nian Bing shook his head and said, Don't worry, your Sister Bingyin doesn't have the ability to catch brother. Her brother might catch her. Kitty said doubtfully, Brother Nian Bing, what's going on between you and Sister Bingyin? Can you not hurt Sister Bingyin? She's a good person. Although she's cold on the surface, Kitty can feel that she's a good person. Kitty's tone was very sure, and her big eyes showed a trace of pleading. Nian Bing sighed softly and said, You won't understand what's going on between us. I'll try my best not to hurt her. Kitty was already 16 years old, but she had lived among white people since she was young and was as pure as a piece of white paper. Nian Bing didn't want any impurities to pollute this white paper, so Kitty asked him about him and Bingyin several times. He didn't say anything. The next morning, Nian Bing ordered Yin Shi to lead 100 blood lion cult experts to personally send Kitty home. He didn't want Kitty to be hurt in any way. Kitty left, and the Blood Lion 7 elders also returned to the Blood Lion cult headquarters. Nian Bing pondered alone in the Ice Moon Hall. It was time to start his next step. To him, nothing was more important than saving his father and daughter. With the big dark demon rat, he decided not to fight the Ice Goddess Priestess. Of course, the premise was that his parents were really not dead. Ice Moon Empire Palace, in a small, independent courtyard. Master, there's something I haven't had time to tell you. Bingyin lowered her head and stood beside the Ice Goddess Priestess. The Ice Goddess Priestess looked up at Bingyin and said, What's the matter? Just say it. Bingyin hesitated and said, This time I represented the Ice Moon Empire in the Huarong Empire's competition and found the Ice Goddess Stone. The Ice Goddess Priestess's face changed slightly and said, You took it back? Bing Chu's face turned red and she shook her head and said, Master, I'm not that person's opponent. He won the final competition. The Ice Goddess Priestess frowned and said, To be able to participate in that competition, it means that he's not old. You actually lost? Could it be that he has an innate domain that can counter your Ice Goddess domain? Bingyin shook her head and said, At that time, he didn't have an innate domain yet, but I still lost. Then, she simply explained the situation of the competition, but hid the fact that she was hit by Nian Bing's breast-grabbing dragon claw. When I met him again, his strength suddenly increased a lot, and I couldn't see through him anymore. His innate domain had also awakened. I talked to him before, and he should be Senior Sister Bingling's son. Bang, the Ice Goddess Priestess slammed the table, and the solid wooden table silently turned into ice powder. That bastard actually didn't die. He even cultivated to such a level with the Ice Goddess Stone and the Fire God Stone. Her eyes flashed with a complicated light, and even Bingyin couldn't see her master's emotions. Do you know where he is? The Ice Goddess Priestess asked coldly. Bingyun's heart skipped a beat, and she whispered, that day you saw in the Imperial Palace, the young man who saved the Ice Moon Empire's emperor was him. No wonder I felt his magical aura was so strange that day. And, Bingyin, why didn't you say anything at that time? Bingyin was shocked and hurriedly said, Master, the situation that day was special. The Ice Goddess Priestess raised her hand to stop her from continuing. Enough, you have to remember, you are a disciple of the Ice God Tower. You shouldn't have forgotten what I said to you at that time. Yin-er, I have high expectations for you, and I hope you won't disappoint me like your senior sister Bingling. Although her voice was very calm, Bingyun's body was already trembling under the pressure of her aura. Master, I have been a disciple of the Ice God Tower all my life. The Ice Goddess Priestess said indifferently, Now go and find this person. I want to see how outstanding he is that even you feel uneasy. Now that the Ice Moon Empire situation had stabilized, the reason why she hadn't left was to find the 7 experts who had escaped after attacking her. However, she had sent out all the experts of the Ice God Tower to search, but she hadn't found any clues. When suppressing the remnants of the Crown Prince's forces, the 7 experts hadn't appeared, which made her somewhat suspicious. Bingyin didn't dare to say anything, and hurriedly agreed and left. When she left the Ice Goddess Priestess's room, she was shocked to find that her whole body was cold, and cold sweat had unknowingly covered her body. Bingyan didn't know where Nian Bing was, but she thought that there was one person who definitely knew, and that was the new emperor of the Ice Moon Empire, Yin Feng. From the day Nian Bing was with him, and from the day he conferred the title of chief court magician to Nian Bing, this could be seen. So, she decided to find Yin Feng first. After more than a month, Yin Feng had finally adapted to the life of an emperor. His hidden wisdom was fully displayed. Although he had wantonly slaughtered, the Ice Moon Empire had now entered a stable stage. Just as he was flipping through the memorials, a chamberlain suddenly came in from outside and respectfully said, "Your Majesty, Miss Bing Yun of the Ice God Tower requests an audience." Yin Feng raised his head and thought, what is she doing here? Ever since he knew that Nian Bing's enemy was the Ice God Tower, he still had some grudges against the Ice God Tower. Now that he heard that Bing Yun had come, he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. However, etiquette couldn't be ignored. The reason why he could sit on the emperor's throne was largely because of the support of the Ice God Tower. He nodded and said, "Invite Miss Bing Yun in." After a while, Bing Yun, wearing a white veil, walked in from outside. Although Yin Feng had seen Bing Yun many times before, he had never seen her before. Every time they met, Bing Yun's cold and noble temperament would give him a new feeling. "Miss Bing Yun, what's the matter?" Yin Feng gestured for her to take a seat. Bing Yun walked to 3 zhang away from Yin Feng and stopped. She bowed slightly to Yin Feng and said, "Your Majesty, I want to see Nian Bing. Can you tell me where he is?" Yin Feng's heart trembled, but his expression didn't change. He smiled and said, "Oh, Miss Bing Yun wants to see Nian Bing? Ever since we parted in the palace that day, I haven't seen him. I don't know where he is. Are you looking for him, or is it the Ice Goddess Priestess?" Bing Yun frowned and said, "Your Majesty, you seem to know something." Yin Feng didn't deny it and said, "Perhaps. However, I really don't know where Nian Bing is." What a joke. Since he knew that Nian Bing and the Ice Goddess Priestess had a grudge, how could he tell her where Nian Bing was? Bing Yun looked deeply at Yin Feng. She couldn't find any flaws in Yin Feng. She was surprised to find that Yin Feng, who used to be a cowardly prince, was now so unfathomable. She nodded and said, "All right, Bing Yun will take her leave." She turned and walked out. Wait a moment. Yin Feng stopped Bing Yun. "Miss Bing Yun, no matter why you're looking for Nian Bing, I hope that you won't have any conflicts with him. To me, Nian Bing is the most important brother. It can be said that my current position was given to me by him." Bing Yun was shocked. She didn't expect that Yin Feng would go against the Ice God Tower for Nian Bing. "All right, I understand." At this moment, the chamberlain walked in again and respectfully said to Yin Feng, "Your Majesty, Chief Magician Nian Bing requests an audience." Hearing this, Bing Yun, who was about to leave, stopped. Yin Feng thought, "Nian Bing. Oh, Nian Bing, you really came at a bad time." He said helplessly, "Let him in." Nian Bing saw Bing Yun as soon as he entered. Bing Yun was also looking at him. Their eyes met in the air and sparks flew. Nian Bing walked past Bing Yun and stood in front of Yin Feng. He smiled and said, "Nian Bing greets your Majesty." Yin Feng smiled and said, "Don't give me that. We're brothers." Nian Bing looked at Yin Feng, who was much more confident than before, and felt gratified. He was now the leader of the Bloodline sect, and the one who benefited the most from this operation. However, Yin Feng also benefited a lot. At least, he could finally hold his head high. Nian Bing smiled and said, "I'm here today to bid you farewell." Although Yin Feng knew that Nian Bing rarely stayed in one place, he couldn't help but feel disappointed when he heard Nian Bing say goodbye. "You're leaving in such a hurry?" Nian Bing glanced at Bing Yun, who walked to his side, and said, "Yes. I still have a lot of things to do." Yin Feng also glanced at Bing Yun and said, "Nian Bing, if you're willing to stay here as long as I'm here, anything is possible." Shi Bing naturally understood what he was hinting at. He shook his head and said, "There's no need. I need to solve my own problems. Your Majesty, take care. With Marshal Shuepo's help, I think you'll definitely be a qualified emperor." Yin Feng stood up from his seat and walked to Nian Bing. He reached out and shook hands with him. "No matter what, we'll always be brothers. Without you, I wouldn't be here today. If you need help, just send me a letter. I won't hesitate, even if I have to use the entire country's strength." Nian Bing smiled and said, "Yes, we're brothers. If I need your help, I'll definitely ask. Treat Shui Yu well. Compared to her, I'm far inferior. She's the one who has always supported you." Although this matter was very beneficial to Yin Feng, to a certain extent, Nian Bing was half using Yin Feng. He felt somewhat guilty. Shi Bing left the palace, and Bing Yun followed him. Seeing that Nian Bing was full of confidence, Yin Feng didn't stop them. After leaving the palace, Bing Yun suddenly sped up and blocked in front of Nian Bing. Nian Bing looked at her with a smile and said, "Why, Miss Bing Yun, are you looking for me?" Bing Yun looked coldly at Nian Bing and said, "What you said you wanted to do is to help Yin Feng ascend to the throne." Nian Bing laughed and said, "I'm just a normal sorcerer. How can I help him?" Bing Yun sneered and said, "Before you came to Ice Moon City, Yin Feng was just a down-and-out prince. But after you came, his fate began to change. From his attitude towards you, his ascension to the throne definitely had a lot to do with you. We once carefully investigated the scene. The first prince, Yin Ji, is dead, but I'm afraid there are more than a few dozen of his subordinates. It's impossible for those people to break into the sleeping quarters and kill so many of the royal guardians. And that huge underground tunnel didn't look like it was made by humans." Nian Bing said indifferently, "Miss Bing Yun, a girl who's too smart isn't likable." Bing Yun said coldly, "I'm not in the mood to care about the Ice Moon Empire. I don't care. But your matter should be done. I think it's time for you to fulfill your promise." Nian Bing smiled and looked at Bing Yun. Bing Yun was still wearing her usual clothes, but her holy and noble temperament didn't seem as cold as before. Thinking of her beautiful face behind the veil, Nian Bing's eyes flashed with a cold light. "Promise? Are you talking about my promise to go to the Ice God Tower?" "Yes, I did promise, but I didn't say when exactly." Chapter 156. Bing Yun said angrily, "Are you going back on your word? It's too late. My master wants to see you." Nian Bing said, "I know your master is in Ice Moon City. I'm not her match. I'm afraid there aren't many people on the Yangon continent who can fight against her. However, don't forget that I have the ability to use spatial magic. If I can't beat her, can I run? With my current cultivation, before your master comes to find me, I can easily use a few mid-distance spatial transmissions. As long as I don't use the Morning Dew dagger, even if your master's spiritual power is strong, she won't be able to sense my location." Looking at the almost bored but smiling Nian Bing, Bing Yun couldn't help but tremble in anger. Seeing Bing Yun's excited expression, Nian Bing felt a trace of pleasure. She smiled and said, "Miss Bing Yun, don't be angry. I'm just joking with you. How about this? I'll go out of the city to get something. When I come back, I'll go see your master. How about that?" Bing Yun paused and said, "You're really going to see my master?" Her cold voice had a hint of loneliness. Nian Bing said calmly, "I have to see what I have to see. Don't you want me to go?" "No, I didn't mean that. However, if you leave the city, will you really come back?" Nian Bing laughed. "So, in Miss Bing Yun's eyes, I'm just a villain? How about this? Miss Bing Yun, come with me to get something. With you watching, you won't be afraid that I'll run away. I think you and your master must have some secret method of communication. Within a certain range, you can summon her to capture me at any time." Bing Yun hesitated before saying, "Okay, then I'll go with you. When do we leave?" Nian Bing looked up at the clear sky. "Then let's go now." Without waiting for Bing Yun's reply, he chanted an incantation and soared into the air with the help of the flying wind spell. Frozen Cloud hurriedly activated Blizzard to follow Nian Bing. The two of them, one in front and one behind, quickly left Frost Snow City. Bing Yun followed behind Nian Bing. Looking at his calm body, surrounded by the cool breeze, she couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you worried at all? Master won't let you off." Nian Bing turned around and smiled. "Since she won't let me go no matter what, what's the use of worrying?" Looking at Nian Bing's deep eyes, Bing Yun couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. However, she did have a way to easily contact her master, so she didn't mind. Nian Bing was like an abyss, an unfathomable abyss. He always had so many secrets. What kind of person was he? Nian Bing maintained a steady speed as he flew forward. There were many mountains in the Ill Moon Empire, Soon, they entered the range of a mountain range. Nian Bing controlled his magic power to slowly descend. Because winter was coming, the biting cold mountain wind brought with it a thick chill. However, both of them cultivated ice magic. This bit of cold was not a threat to them. Wen Bing Yun followed Nian Bing and landed on the mountainside of a tall mountain. Her heart was filled with doubts. Why did he need to come to this barren mountain to get something? Just as she was feeling puzzled, Nian Bing waved his right hand, and a seven-colored radiance flashed. The green radiance within the radiance grew even brighter, and he used the power of the wind to push aside a large rock halfway up the mountain, revealing a dark cave entrance. He didn't call out to Bing Yun and walked into the cave on his own. Bing Yun was surprised as she followed Nian Bing into the cave. As she walked, she secretly prepared her innate domain, ready to react at any time. Ever since she was hit by Nian Bing's breast-grabbing dragon claw, she didn't trust Nian Bing's character. Even she didn't understand what kind of person Nian Bing was in her heart. From Nian Bing's kindness to Kitty, he seemed to be very kind. However, from his cold performance and despicable methods in the Huarong Empire competition, he seemed to be a despicable person. However, he had an incomparably handsome face and was good at cooking. Bing Yun always felt that she didn't know Nian Bing clearly. Just as she was walking in, Bing Yun's body suddenly shook. A familiar feeling instantly spread throughout her body, and a trace of shock appeared in her eyes. In the next moment, a strong sense of weakness spread from her brain to her whole body. She groaned and barely managed to stabilize herself by holding onto the wall beside her. The seven-colored light appeared at the right time and enveloped Bing Yun's body. That sticky energy stabilized her delicate body. Nian Bing turned around and looked at her with a smile, but the depths of his eyes were filled with coldness. You're despicable. It's that eternal sleep again. Bing Yun already understood what Nian Bing did. Nian Bing looked at Bing Yun, who was continuously preparing to release her magic, and said leisurely, "That's right, it's the eternal sleep. In this cave, I've already set a trap. You don't have to try to do anything. It's useless. Without spiritual power, your ice magic won't be able to do anything in my enhanced sky eye domain. Not long ago, I just learned a mysterious dark magic incantation. Today, I'm here to experiment on you. That's the incantation of nightmare." As he spoke, Nian Bing lightly patted his palm. The entire sky eye domain's light of the other 6 elements disappeared at the same time, leaving only the dark aura. Bing Yun only felt her body tighten, as if her body was grabbed by an invisible hand. The dark aura kept seeping in her body through her pores. The ice magic she gathered was quickly flowing away like snow melting away. No, it wasn't flowing away. It was gradually losing contact with her. Originally, Nian Bing's forbidden magic incantation wouldn't have any effect on her. However, without spiritual power, Bing Yun had already lost the ability to resist. The dark aura kept corroding her body. At this moment, in her eyes, Nian Bing was like a devil from hell. Nian Bing kept chanting in a low voice. The forbidden magic incantation placed 7 layers of seals in Bing Yun's body. In a situation where she had no spiritual power to control it, her magic was completely restricted. Even if they were to fight face to face, he was confident that he could easily defeat Bing Yun. However, he couldn't take the risk. The ice goddess priestess was in Ice Moon City. Once she was lured out, he wouldn't have any chance. Nian Bing slowly walked in front of Bing Yun. Looking at Bing Yun's beautiful eyes full of hatred, he smiled and said, "Are you wondering why I'm not affected by the eternal sleep? Actually, it's very simple. It's because my territory has reached a new level. My spiritual power has already solidified. Although the eternal sleep is strange, it can no longer affect me." He discovered this situation by chance. When the Tian Yin acupoint evolved to the middle stage, the solidified spiritual power could no longer be affected by the magic array. Smiling slightly, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a faint cold light. He waved his hand and grabbed Bing Yun's shoulder, pulling her body into the depths of the cave. At the same time, a black shadow separated from his body. In the blink of an eye, It arrived at the entrance of the cave and moved the huge rock back to its original position, covering the cave. In the depths of the cave, Frozen Cloud saw the strange magic formation on the ground. Nian Bing waved his left hand, and 6 rays of light appeared out of nowhere. They nailed themselves to the ground and lit up the pitch-black cave. Aside from the demon's sucking blade, the 6 divine swords flickered with a faint light, creating a strange scene in the depths of the dark cave. Nian Bing placed the powerless Bing Yun on the ground and leaned against the wall behind her. He looked at her and said, "Now, we can have a good talk." The white veil on Bing Yun's face had already fallen off. Because of her extreme anger, her originally cold face was flushed red. "There's nothing to talk about. My master won't let you go." Nian Bing said indifferently, "Really? You could try. The connection between you and your master relies on magic. Not to mention that you can't use any magic now. Even if you could, you wouldn't be able to contact her. I just dug this cave not long ago. I set up 6 interference magic arrays outside the cave. Without my permission, no magic aura can come out of the cave. Your master can't save you. If you don't want to die, then cooperate with me." As he spoke, he removed the eternal sleep on the ground. Bing Yun's magic was sealed, and she could no longer pose any threat to him. He didn't want Bing Yun to faint because of the loss of her power of the will. "You're dreaming," Bing Yun shouted angrily. "Kill me, kill me. Do you think the people of the Ice God Tower are afraid of death?" Nian Bing looked at Bing Yun, who was struggling to stand up, and said coldly, "Aren't you afraid of death? Well, I want to see if you're really not afraid or just pretending." He took a step forward, and his right hand grabbed Bing Yun's throat like lightning. With his dragon body, as long as he wanted, he could easily kill Bing Yun. As Nian Bing's hand tightened, Bing Yun's face became paler and paler. She didn't even struggle. Her eyes gradually dimmed and were filled with contempt. The two of them were in a stalemate. Nian Bing could even feel the life force in Bing Yun's body gradually draining away. Bing Yun's skin was very smooth, as if she didn't even have any pores. The flow of blood under her smooth skin became slower and slower as Nian Bing tightened his grip. However, she still didn't look like she was going to compromise. Looking at her stubborn eyes, Nian Bing's heart softened for no reason. He released his grip and allowed Bing Yun to fall to the ground, panting heavily. Nian Bing squatted down and said, "As long as you're willing to answer a few of my questions, I won't hurt you. Kitty said that you're a good person, and I believe her. What I'm going to ask you won't threaten the Ice God Tower. As a child, I just want to know the real situation of my parents. If they're really not dead like you said, then I want to know where they are in the Ice God Tower. As long as you tell me, I'll let you go immediately." Bing Yun's eyes were filled with hatred. "Stop dreaming. You won't be able to get anything about the Ice God Tower out of my mouth. Kill me, kill me. You despicable villain. You only know how to use underhanded means." "Despicable?" Nian Bing laughed. His voice was filled with grief and indignation. "This was all forced by your master. If it weren't for her, how could my parents leave me? Ever since I was young, I've never had a childhood. When my father was still alive, we lived in fear every day. Later, my father and mother were harmed by your master, that old witch. The reason why I'm where I am today is all because of that old witch. I'm willing to do anything despicable to protect my parents. My patience is limited. I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to tell me or not?" Bing Yun said disdainfully, "Are you threatening me? I'm not even afraid of death. What right do you have to threaten me?" Nian Bing's eyes suddenly revealed a trace of black aura. He stared at Bing Yun and said, "Look into my eyes." Bing Yun looked up at him subconsciously. She saw that Nian Bing's eyes were shining with a black luster. A layer of black mist was constantly flickering in his eyes. Every time it flickered, she could clearly feel her consciousness becoming a little hazy. "Look into my eyes. I'm the person you trust the most. Look into my eyes, and you'll believe everything I say." Nian Bing's voice was abnormally low. That magnetic voice was like a call from a nightmare, causing Bing Yun to gradually become addicted. At this moment, a cold aura arose from Bing Yun's mind. She was just about to lose consciousness when she was stimulated. Her hazy eyes suddenly became clear. "What are you doing?" Nian Bing groaned. His body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. At this moment, his heart was filled with surprise. He used hypnotism in the dark magic. When the second elder of the Bloodline Hall taught him this magic, he once told him that as long as his spiritual power was higher than the opponent's, he could hypnotize the opponent and obtain everything he wanted to know. However, this magic actually failed on Bingyan. Under the guidance of his spiritual power was immediately shaken. Fortunately, he had the Tian Yin acupoint to solidify his spiritual power, so he didn't really suffer any real damage. Even so, Ling Yinbing couldn't help but re-evaluate Bingyun. Your strange method has no effect at all. I said before, even if you kill me, you won't get anything out of me. Bingyun looked coldly at Yinbing and said disdainfully. Yinbing said hatefully, "Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Miss Bingyun, I just want to know the whereabouts of my parents." Bingyun looked coldly at Yinbing and said, "Ice Spirit Level 10 violated the Ice God Tower's rules by marrying an outsider and giving birth to you. They violated a huge taboo. No matter what happened to them, they only have themselves to blame." Yinbing's expression changed. "You dare to criticize my parents? Have you ever truly loved? How would you know the taste of love if you haven't loved someone? What right do you have to criticize my parents? You're not worthy." "Not worthy? If I want to say it. What about you? If you have the ability, kill me. Your parents only have themselves to blame." Bingyan seemed a little crazy in her anger. Yinbing's face became a little twisted. "Miss Bingyan, you seem to have forgotten something. You're a woman, and I'm a man. To deal with you, I don't necessarily have to threaten you with death. I heard that the women from the Ice God Tower are all very virtuous. Good. I want to see how virtuous you are." As Frozen Cloud cried out in alarm, he fiercely pounced on her, using his body to press down on her. He fiercely held her charming face, and with hatred, deeply kissed her. Bingyun's whole body trembled violently. She didn't even feel fear when facing death. At this moment, her cold eyes were filled with fear. She kept struggling, but with her weak body that hadn't recovered her spiritual power, how could she compete with Nian Bing's dragon body? Bingyun's mouth was tightly shut. Nian Bing's heart became crazy because of the burning hatred. He used his tongue to force open Bingyun's cold lips. His whole body emitted a fiery aura as he probed into her small mouth. Bingyun's mood became abnormally flustered. She had never been so close to a man, so intimate. In her panic, she bit Nianbing's tongue hard. However, Nianbing's transformed body was abnormally tough. Everything she did was in vain. Nianbing found Bingyun's cold and trembling little tongue and sucked it crazily. At the same time, his big hand reached into Bingyun's lapel and grabbed her cold, soft, and elastic peaks. This was the second time, but the feeling was completely different. The fiery feeling accompanied by the wild feeling made Nian Bing lose his mind. Bingyun's delicate body struggled under his body. The intense stimulation caused Nian Bing's heart to become even more excited. Frozen Cloud's clothes were shredded piece by piece under Nian Bing's large hands that were filled with magic. Her white and tender skin faintly flushed under the large hands that were filled with heat. Bingyun's goddess-like perfect body was full of endless temptation for Nian Bing. Hatred, anger, and all kinds of complicated feelings made him lose his mind. At this time, Bingyun's body became even weaker. Nian Bing's passion seemed to have melted this iceberg of hers. The strange feeling made her gradually lose her mind. Her resistance became weaker and weaker. She could only weakly beat Nian Bing's back. Nian Bing let go of Bingyun's red and swollen lips and kissed her delicate face. The warmth on his skin made Bingyun's whole body tremble. Nian Bing's lips moved to her neck, leaving rose-red marks one after another. She lowered her head. Nian Bing sucked on one of the buds as their bodies touched. His right hand subconsciously reached into the holy maiden spot between Frozen Cloud's legs. The moist feeling seemed to be telling him that everything was ready. Nian Bing's fiery heart seemed to have found an outlet, and his attacks on Frozen Cloud became even more ferocious. He didn't have any experience. His movements were abnormally rough, leaving streaks of marks on Frozen Cloud's fair skin. Bing Yun had completely lost the ability to resist. She could clearly feel Nian Bing's burning body adjusting its position, but she was unable to resist. Just as the sword was about to land, a lazy voice sounded in Nian Bing's heart. "Boss, you can't be such a beast, right?" Nian Bing's body froze. Oscar's voice sounded again. "Boss, I just want you to do something that you will regret. If you want to continue, I won't stop you. You can do as you see fit." Nian Bing's bloodshot eyes gradually regained their clarity. His right hand shone with a blue light. He fiercely pressed a piece of ice and snow on his face. Under the stimulation of the cold, he finally woke up. He awkwardly escaped from Bing Yun's body and fell to the side, gasping for breath. In the entire cave, there was only Nian Bing's heavy breathing and Bing Yun's delicate cries. The silence lasted for a long time. Nian Bing continued to circulate the ice magic in his body through every single meridian in his body. Only then did he manage to expel the intense heat, and his heart gradually calmed down. He didn't blame Oscar for ruining his good deed. Instead, he was secretly grateful. What's wrong with me? If I really rate Bing Yun, then I'm a beast. How can I face Feng Nu and Long Ling, who love me so deeply? He raised his head and looked at Bing Yun. Bing Yun still maintained her previous position. Her white and tender skin exuded a rose-like flush. Her breathing was softer than before. Nian Bing could clearly see the faint bruises on her seductive body, especially the dense kiss marks on her slender, swan-like neck. Did he do all these? Bing Yun's body was too tempting. With one look, Nian Bing's desire that had just been suppressed stirred again. He was startled and hurriedly took out a piece of clothing from his space ring and threw it to Bing Yun. "Put on your clothes first." As soon as he spoke, he realized that his voice was a little hoarse. Bing Yun pulled the clothes and covered herself. She also raised her head. That unusually beautiful face no longer had the slightest coldness. She looked at Nian Bing with teary eyes. That deep resentment Ling Ling's heart couldn't help but tremble. With his strong mental strength, he actually dared to look at Bing Yun. He lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry." Bing Yun didn't say anything. She scolded Nian Bing now. Nian Bing's heart would feel better, but she didn't. The resentment in her eyes gradually disappeared, and those originally beautiful big eyes were filled with a deathly stillness. Her hands tightly gripped the golden magic robe that Nian Bing threw to her. Her joints were white because of excessive force. Standing up, Nian Bing tidied up his clothes and left the cave as if he was escaping. He didn't dare to stay here any longer because he was afraid to see Bing Yun's deathly stillness. His heart was filled with intense regret. Originally, he hated everyone in the Ice God Tower. However, after interacting with Bing Yun, he realized that under Bing Yun's cold exterior, there was a kind heart. This could be easily seen from her attitude towards Kitty. Although she was always on guard against him, she didn't use any methods to deal with him. When he was in Ice Moon City, she didn't even use the Ice God Tower's people to capture him. She just kept waiting. But what did he do? He actually hurt a girl like this. She was so pure, but what about him? With a feeling of irritation, Nian Bing floated up. Under the effect of the wind element, he threw himself into the mountain range. When Nian Bing returned to the cave, Bing Yun still maintained her previous appearance. Even her movements didn't change. The deathly stillness in her eyes turned into dullness. It was as if she didn't notice that Nian Bing had returned. Nian Bing spread the bearskin on his back on the ground and said in a low voice, "Bing Yun, you can rest on the bearskin. I've already cleaned it up very well. I used magic to get rid of the smell on it. The weather is a bit cold now." Bing Yun didn't move. She still sat there, not even looking at Nian Bing. The two of them were in a deadlock. Neither of them moved. With a sigh, Nian Bing bent down. He hugged Bing Yun with one hand and put the other hand between her legs to carry her up from the ground. When his hand touched Bing Yun's body, he clearly felt that Bing Yun's body trembled. However, she didn't move or resist. She let Nian Bing put her body on the soft and thick bearskin. Nian Bing helped her pull up the magic robe on her body to cover her exposed white shoulders. At this time, Bing Yun's clothes couldn't be worn at all. They were piled up on the side. Ling Nian Bing was very embarrassed. Seeing that Bing Yun still didn't move, he could only say to himself, I'll go get you some food. After saying that, Nian Bing waved his right hand. A magic flame lit up beside Bing Yun. Not only did it make the cave brighter, it also brought some warmth. When he hugged Bing Yun, he felt that her body was very cold. Her blood seemed to be flowing smoothly. Nian Bing put his 6 swords back into the space ring. After looking at Bing Yun again, he went out. He had just killed a black bear that was preparing to hibernate in the mountains. The bear paw was known as one of the 8 treasures of the sea. It was a rare and excellent tonic. Ling Nian Bing regretted what he did to Bing Yun because of his impulsiveness. He subconsciously felt that he had to compensate her. Although the thick bearskin wasn't soft, it was at least much more comfortable than the ground. After Bing Yun's magic power was sealed by Nian Bing, she could also feel the cold. Her dull eyes moved, and she slowly put on a magic robe that covered her body. Even the cloak was on her head. Nian Bing's wide magic robe instantly covered every inch of her skin. At this time, the Ice Moon Empire had already entered the beginning of winter. Although they were in the depths of the cave, the biting cold wind outside had already lowered the temperature of the mountain range to below freezing. When Nian Bing went to hunt the black bear, Bing Yun's body was already stiff from the cold. Now, with the help of the bearskin and the magic flame, she gradually warmed up. The best thing about the magic flame was that it didn't produce smoke. After a while, a rich aroma floated in every corner of the cave. It was a sweet aroma that was full of temptation. Bing Yun curled up on the bearskin. She still had a dull look, but her pale face, because of the cold, had already regained some color. It was as if she didn't smell the aroma. Nian Bing's footsteps sounded. He always brought all kinds of kitchen utensils with him. Every time he went to a big city, he would add all kinds of seasonings he needed. Cooking was naturally an easy task. He held a large plate in his hands and squatted down in front of Bing Yun. He opened the lid on the plate. Suddenly, an incomparable aroma overflowed. There wasn't anything extra on the plate, only 2 giant bear paws. The bear paws were golden in color, and juices flowed on the surface. The slightly sweet aroma stimulated Nian Bing and Bing Yun's sense of smell. Seeing that Bing Yun didn't have any reaction, Nian Bing's face revealed a faint smile. The Ice Moon Empire is located in the extreme north. The animals here are famous for their dense and thick fur and tender meat. This ice bear is a rare material. It is about to enter hibernation, so there's a large amount of energy stored in its body. Most of this energy is concentrated in the 4 bear paws. I used the honey method and placed the beehive on the bear paws. Every time the bear paws were about to be cooked, I injected the ice element into it and steamed it again. After 3 times, the hidden nutrients and wild taste in the bear paws were completely activated. Mixed with the sweet aroma of honey, there is no need to add any seasonings. As long as it is eaten hot, it will nourish the skin. It is most suitable in this cold environment. Miss Bing Yun, don't you want to try this delicacy? Bing Yun slowly raised her head and glared at Nian Bing with hatred. She still didn't say a word. Nian Bing saw the hatred in her eyes and felt a little better. At least, it was much better than the dead silence from before. Nian Bing turned his wrist and took out the cloth bag with the ghost condor. He took out the largest ghost condor from it. The ghost condor jumped between his fingers and cut off a piece of juicy bear paw meat. He handed it to Bing Yun. Come eat some. The food I make will definitely taste good. Don't you want to try it? Bing Yun still glared at Nian Bing with hatred but didn't move. Nian Bing frowned and said, Look at you. You can't wait to peel my skin, pull out my tendons, and cut my body into pieces to vent your hatred. But if you starve to death, how will you take revenge on me? If you want to kill me, you have to maintain your strength. Only then will you have a chance. Go die. Bing Yun's voice sounded like it came from hell. Even Nian Bing couldn't help but feel cold in his heart. Nian Bing revealed a bitter smile and said, At least I don't have any evil intentions towards you now. I was the one who did it before. But you have to understand that it was you who insulted my parents first. That's why I was so impulsive. You don't want to eat? Do you want me to feed you with my mouth? Don't worry, I won't let you die. If you insist on eating, I can only feed you myself. You should understand that you don't have the strength to resist me now. Bing Yun's face flushed. Her beautiful eyes, full of hatred, had a little more panic. She subconsciously opened her still red and swollen mouth. Nian Bing smiled and blew on the steaming bear paw. Then she put it into Bing Yun's mouth and watched her eat this nourishing delicacy. The tender and smooth bear paw meat was full of sweet fragrance. When Bing Yun ate the first bite of bear paw, the hatred in her eyes disappeared for a moment. Such delicious food was a temptation for anyone. Warmth rose from the body, and she suddenly felt much more comfortable. At this time, Nian Bing had put another piece of bear paw in her mouth. Bing Yun wanted to take the ghost condor and eat it herself, but her spiritual power was far from recovered. Coupled with the previous strong stimulation, her whole body was sore and weak. Let alone move, she didn't even have the strength to sit up. She could only let Nian Bing put the bear paw in her mouth. Nian Bing secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Frozen Cloud eat the food he made. The guilt in his heart was finally appeased. He carefully helped Frozen Cloud sit up and let her lean on his shoulder. Frozen Cloud wanted to struggle, but she couldn't. Mouthful after mouthful of bear paw was delivered to her mouth. The sweet and rich taste made her forget to resist. Chapter 157. Looking at Bing Yun's bright red lips moving and feeling the smooth skin under her magic robe, Nian Bing's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. He even forgot about his plan to interrogate Bing Yun. In this warm atmosphere, he continued to feed Bing Yun the bear paw and watch her eat the food he made. Gradually, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He moved the shoulder she was leaning on and lifted his left hand to hug her delicate body, making her sit more comfortably. After a while, the entire bear paw was in Bing Yun's stomach. Nian Bing felt that it was enough and stopped feeding her. Frozen Cloud glanced at the other bear paw as if she hadn't fully expressed herself. However, she quickly realized her relationship with Nian Bing. With the help of the bear paw's energy, she had already recovered some of her strength. She struggled with all her might. Nian Bing wiped Frozen Cloud's mouth with his sleeve and helped her lie back down on the bearskin. He then sat to the side and devoured the other bear paw like a whirlwind. As he ate, he stole glances at Bing Yun. Bing Yun's gaze became dull again. She didn't even look at him and just lay on the bearskin. Nian Bing realized that he seemed to miss the feeling of hugging her. After eating the bear paw, Nian Bing packed up the things. This ice bear was enough for the two of them to eat for a month. It was sealed with ice magic, so there was no need to worry that it would rot. When he finished packing up and returned to the cave, Bing Yun had already closed her eyes, but there was no sound of snoring. Nian Bing sat down not far from her. Bing Yun wrapped herself up very tightly. He could only see the moving curves of her body through the magic robe. Thinking of how he violated Bing Yun, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He said, "Bing Yun, I know you're not asleep. How about this? Let's have a chat. Please believe me, I really don't want to hurt you. I just want to know the whereabouts of my parents." Bing Yun suddenly opened her eyes. Nian Bing saw those eyes filled with hatred again. "Don't want to hurt me? Even if you kill me, I won't hate you as much as I do now." Nian Bing was stunned. I really didn't control myself at that time. However, I was able to stop at the last moment. I've been fighting with myself for a long time. Luckily, I didn't ruin your innocence. I know you hate me, but there's no need to make things difficult for yourself. Maybe your master is already looking for you, but I've said it before, she won't be able to find this bag. Frozen Cloud looked at Nian Bing coldly. "Ever since I was young, other than my father, no man has ever touched me. You've humiliated me twice, and you still say that you didn't ruin my innocence." Nian Bing said, "I've already done it. What do you want? Do you want me to let you touch me back?" "You." Bing Yun was so angry that her whole body trembled. "You're despicable. You're shameless. You're dirty. If you don't kill me now, one day, I'll make you wish you were dead." Looking at Bing Yun's angry appearance, Nian Bing's face revealed a trace of a smile. "Okay, I'll wait for that day to come. It seems that no matter what I say, you won't tell me the whereabouts of my parents. All right, I won't force you. Don't worry, I won't violate you again. We'll just stay here. I have plenty of time. Other than not being able to drive a wedge between us, I'll definitely take care of your daily life. We'll just live here for a while. When you feel annoyed, just tell me what I want to know. I'll immediately let you go. As for how you want to take revenge, I'll wait. Who wants to live here with you?" Bingyan didn't know where she got the strength from, but she suddenly sat up on the bearskin. She glared hatefully at Nian Bing beside her and waved her hand to slap his face. A clear handprint appeared on Nian Bing's handsome face. He had been slapped. Instead, it was Frozen Cloud who was stunned. She subconsciously asked, "Why didn't you dodge?" Nian Bing sighed softly and said, "I was wrong to have offended you before. I deserve to receive a slap from you. If you're still angry, you can hit me twice more." Bingyun raised her hand again, but her hand didn't fall. You wish. I won't hit you. I'll let you feel the condemnation in your heart." Nian Bing chuckled and said, "Is that what you think? You also said that I'm a despicable, shameless, and dirty person. Would a person be ashamed of what they did? Then you're thinking too pure of me. But, to be honest, Miss Bingyun's figure is really not bad." Bingyun's raised hand finally swung down, but this time, Nian Bing grabbed her wrist. "You didn't hit me just now, but you can't hit me now." Nian Bing put Bingyun back on the bearskin and used it to wrap her delicate body. Bingyun wanted to struggle, but Nian Bing said, "You'd better stay like this and don't move. I'm a normal man. You're only wearing my magic robe now, and your face is completely covered. If my beast blood boiled again, I can't guarantee that I won't stop at the last moment." Hearing Nian Bing say this, Bingyun immediately stopped struggling. She glared at him fiercely while tightening the bearskin around her body, leaving only her head outside. "Nian Bing, you better be careful. Maybe when you're cooking, I'll throw a blade in and let you eat until your intestines and stomach rot." Nian Bing chuckled and said, "I know very well what you have on you. Now that you can't use magic, where are you going to find a blade? Also, even if I really eat a blade, I'm afraid I won't die." Bingyun simply closed her eyes. She knew that she couldn't win against Nian Bing. She would only be looking for trouble. Closing her eyes, she continuously gathered the spiritual power that she had lost, searching for a way to connect with her magic. Only by recovering her strength could she possibly escape this situation. Seeing that Bingyun was no longer paying attention to him, Nian Bing turned and walked out. He wasn't lying to Bingyun. If Nian Bing saw her moving body a few more times, he was afraid that Nian Bing really wouldn't be able to control himself. Nian Bing had just walked out of the inner cave when Bingyun opened her eyes. She used her fastest speed to pull out a 3-inch-long tube made of white jade from her hair. She put it to her mouth and gently blew on it. No sound came out, but the small tube emitted a layer of luster. The hatred in Bingyun's eyes intensified. She seemed to have already seen Nian Bing die in front of her. Just like that, Nian Bing and Frozen Cloud spent a lot of time together. Apart from restricting Frozen Cloud's magic power and freedom, Nian Bing took very good care of her. Every day, he would make different kinds of delicious food for her. The inner cave was already filled with the fur of various animals. In addition to the constant burning of magic flames, Bingyun didn't feel cold at all. Nian Bing knew that she liked cleanliness. He even used wind magic to dig a hole that was 5 feet deep in the cave. Then, he used ice and fire magic to make hot water for her to bathe. From that day onwards, Bingyun rarely spoke to Nian Bing. She ate when the food was ready and took a bath when the hot water was ready. Nian Bing didn't live in the inner cave with her. He cultivated outside the cave. Every day, he would ask Bingyun about his parents. Bingyun also ignored him. The two of them were waiting. It was just that they were waiting for different things. 10 days passed quickly. Every time Nian Bing cooked, Bingyun would take the initiative to follow him. When Nian Bing wasn't paying attention, she would throw some things into the pot. Unfortunately, Nian Bing would notice it every time. Nian Bing didn't blame her for anything, either. He simply made the dish again, and she was still satisfied with it. Every day, she ate the best food. Compared to when she first arrived, Bingyun's fair skin had become even more lustrous. Her originally thin and weak body had also become a bit fuller, looking even more alluring. "Bingyun, I'm back." Nian Bing's voice came from outside. Bingyun, who was meditating cross-legged, opened her eyes. She saw Nian Bing's tall figure appear at the entrance of the cave. She didn't know how many times she had tried to break through a layer of restriction. Every time she broke through a layer of restriction, Nian Bing would immediately notice and set another restriction in her body. Nian Bing placed the item in his hand aside and smiled as he said, "Look, I found this in a valley not far away. It's a small basin, and the temperature there is much higher than here. There are actually plants growing there. Do you recognize this fruit? Can it be eaten?" As he spoke, he pointed to the thing he brought back. Bingyan took a look and found that it was a purple fruit. The fruit was the size of a longan and emitted a faint fragrance. Each of them was crystal clear, like a gem. She shook her head and said, "This is the first time I've seen this fruit. Let's just eat it. At most, we'll die together." Her voice was no longer as cold. Although she was still full of hostility towards Nian Bing, she had gradually adapted to this kind of life. Nian Bing's judgment was wrong. Bing Yin was not afraid of loneliness. When she was cultivating in the Ice God Tower, it was much more lonely than here. She only ate a little dry food every day. How could it compare to tasting the best food made by Nian Bing? Moreover, although she hated Nian Bing, with Nian Bing talking to her every day, she didn't feel lonely at all. Other than losing her freedom and being unable to control magic, her life here was much more comfortable than in the Ice God Tower. Moreover, since that day, Nian Bing didn't even touch her. Although the hatred in her heart was still there, it wasn't so strong. Nian Bing smiled and said, "Forget it, then I'll just not eat it. I can't bear to die." Bing Yin, even if you don't tell me about the Ice God Tower, can you tell me, are my parents really not dead? Looking at Nian Bing's hopeful eyes, Bing Yun's heart softened. She didn't say anything, but nodded lightly. Nian Bing was overjoyed. "Really? That's great. They're not dead. They're actually not dead." He was so excited that he jumped up, but he forgot that the cave was only 2 meters high when it was dug. With a bang, his head hit the ceiling of the cave. Although his body was very strong, he still felt dizzy and fell to the ground with a cry of surprise. He held his head and cried out in pain. A bell-like laughter sounded. Looking at Nian Bing's embarrassed appearance, Bing Yin laughed from the bottom of her heart. Nian Bing looked up at her. Bing Yin was so beautiful when she laughed, so beautiful that it was suffocating. His eyes were completely dull. "Bing Yin, you're so beautiful when you laugh. Why do you always have a straight face?" Bing Yin was stunned for a moment. The smile on her face disappeared. She snorted and said, "As long as you're unlucky, of course I'm happy. Why should I laugh for you?" Nian Bing smiled and sat up. "Okay, I won't laugh. However, no matter what, I have to thank you for telling me about my parents' situation. Today we'll have an extra meal. I'll cook a few more dishes for you as a thank you." With that, he turned and walked outside. Looking at Nian Bing's leaving figure, Bing Yun's eyes gradually turned cold. She turned to the purple fruits on the ground. Was that really poison? Master once said that the more poisonous something was, the brighter the color. This fruit looked so beautiful. It was very likely that it was highly poisonous. However, should she poison him to death? Bing Yun's heart was in a fierce battle. All the benefits that Nian Bing had done for her in the past 10 days kept appearing in front of her eyes. However, the situation where he almost raped her also made her hate him hard to calm down. Just like that, she didn't hate him anymore? No, that was impossible. However, why did she miss him every day when she couldn't see him? No, that's impossible. How could I like this despicable guy? Her heart was in chaos. Suddenly, she grabbed the fruits that Nian Bing brought back. She grabbed them and muttered to herself, "Master, Yin-Er's body is no longer clean. Yin-Er's heart is also in chaos. It's not that pure anymore. Master, Yin-Er has let you down. If this is really poison, then let me die with that bastard. I can't forgive him. However, if this continues, maybe I really won't hate him anymore. Let the heavens decide everything. I hope this will be the end." Thinking of this, she stood up resolutely and walked outside. Nian Bing's hands constantly changed into different kinds of light. The prepared food gradually became the best food under the magic in his hands. After receiving the news that his parents weren't dead, Nian Bing's heart was filled with an indescribable excitement. Today, he was even more hardworking than usual. By the time Frozen Cloud walked out, he had already made 2 simple yet complicated dishes. "Bing Yin, you came at the right time. Help me look after the soup pot. Use this spoon to stir it. I'll go out and bring in some frozen meat. It will be ready to eat in a while." Saying this, he turned and walked out of the cave, holding the spoon that still had Nian Bing's body temperature. Bing Yun's eyes were a little dull. Nian Bing's handsome face was filled with excitement. Looking at the steaming soup pot, her heart suddenly felt very painful. However, she still didn't hesitate to throw those purple fruits into the soup. At the same time, she also put a few fruits in her mouth. Using the spoon, she crushed the fruits and mixed them into the soup. If he died, then he died. No matter what position he had in her heart, she would also die with him. With the will to die, Bingyan thought it through. Slowly stirring the soup spoon, a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. After a while, Nianbing came back. Because of the excitement in his heart, he didn't notice anything wrong with Bingyan. Taking the spoon, the magic light flashed again, and he continued cooking. Bingyan leaned against the wall at the side. Her moving eyes fell on Nian Bing's smooth movements. At this moment, her heart was completely open. She realized that a focused Nian Bing was so handsome. Her eyes were a little blurred. She didn't want to think about hatred or anything else. At this moment, she only had Nian Bing's tall and straight figure in her eyes. Unknowingly, time passed quickly. Nian Bing finished the last movement and smiled. Okay, I'm done. 4 dishes and 1 soup. Not bad, right? Come, Bing Yun, we can start now. When Nian Bing turned to look at Bing Yun, who had been standing there the whole time, he was surprised to find that this proud winter plum in the snow was smiling at him. That beautiful face was like the spring breeze thawing, without any trace of coldness. Even in her moving big eyes, there was no trace of hatred. Nian Bing, I want to eat inside today, okay? It's a little cold outside. Nian Bing was stunned for a moment. Ever since he fed Frozen Cloud the bear paw that day, they had been eating outside every time. After eating, Frozen Cloud would return to the cave. This was the first time she had taken the initiative to ask him to eat in the cave. It was also the first time she called his name after coming here. Bing Yun's gentleness made Nian Bing a little uncomfortable. He asked tentatively, Bing Yun, are you okay? Bing Yun smiled slightly. She said, didn't you say I'm beautiful when I smile? Let's go. We'll eat in the inner cave. As he said this, he took the initiative to pick up 2 plates of food and walked into the inner cave. Although Nian Bing was a little confused, Bing Yun's change was a good thing. He was secretly happy. Maybe he could get something out of her today. He hurriedly took the rest of the food and followed in. Is it good? Sitting on the animal skin, Nian Bing ate while asking Bing Yun. He found Bing Yun seemed to be very happy today. There was always a faint smile on her beautiful face. There was a beautiful woman beside him eating, and this beautiful woman seemed to be smiling because of him. This kind of feeling was very wonderful. Bing Yun nodded and said, Nian Bing, do you know? The first time I ate your barbecue, I realized that food could be so delicious. My appetite was very small, but after eating your food, my appetite increased a lot. The food you make is much more delicious than what I've eaten before. Eating this kind of food is a pleasure in itself. Nian Bing smiled and said, It's my honor to be praised by Miss Bing Yun. This is the first time you've praised my food, although I've always thought so. Bing Yun smiled and said, I just praised you and you're already arrogant. Can't you be a little more modest? Eat this. I think it's the best. As she said this, she took the initiative to put the food in front of her into Nian Bing's bowl. Nian Bing was stunned for a moment and put down the chopsticks in her hand. She reached out and touched Bing Yun's forehead. Bing Yun's body trembled and she quickly dodged. What are you doing? Nian Bing said doubtfully. Bing Yun, you're very strange today. I want to see if you have a fever. Bing Yun blushed and said, You're the one who has a fever. Do you want me to treat you like how I treated you before? No, of course not. Nian Bing shook her hand and said, You're like a real woman now. Bing Yun, you're really beautiful. I know you've always been suspicious of me. In fact, I'm not as bad as you think. Do you want to hear my story? Bing Yun nodded and poured out 2 bowls of hot soup. She handed 1 bowl to Nian Bing and held the other bowl in her hand. Tell me, feeling Bing Yun's gentleness and thinking of his parents who hadn't died, Nian Bing's heart was filled with warmth. Then, he slowly told Bing Yun about his experiences since he could remember. He was completely immersed in his memories. When he drank the hot soup, He didn't notice Bing Yun's strange gaze. Bing Yun saw him drink the soup and also drank the hot soup in her bowl. What? You helped Yin Feng ascend the throne just for a woman? Bing Yun looked at Nian Bing in shock. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, Why not? Ling Er has done so much for me and has been waiting for me silently. How can I let her suffer any more harm? It's fine now. When you tell me where my parents are, I'll go find Ling Er first. Then, I'll think of a way to sneak into your ice god tower to save my parents. I don't have many aspirations in this life. I just hope to live a peaceful life with my parents and the people I love. I also have a wish to become the champion of the God of Cookery tournament. This is my master's wish, and I must complete it. Now that I think about it, if father, mother, and the women I love can eat the food I make every day, how heartwarming would that be? Seeing the longing in his eyes, Bing Yun's nose turned sour. She suddenly realized that she regretted putting the fruit in the soup. She deeply felt that Nian Bing was such a sentimental person. Everything he did was for his family. What reason did she have to hate such a person? However, it was too late to say anything now. Lowering her head, Bing Yun said sadly, I'm sorry. I misjudged you. Nian Bing, do you want to know about your parents? I'll tell you. Nian Bing woke up from his longing. Because of his excitement, his body trembled. You're telling the truth? You're really willing to tell me? Bing Yun nodded slightly and said, Yes, I'm willing to tell you. For a dead person, secrets no longer had any meaning. She ate the purple fruit first. At this moment, her lower abdomen began to cramp. She was very clear that with her physique, ordinary poisons would have no effect at all. That purple fruit must be something extremely poisonous. Since she was going to die, the only thing she could do was to fulfill Nian Bing's last wish. She took a deep breath and barely suppressed the pain in her body. She didn't reveal the slightest bit of a strange expression as she said in a low voice, Actually, my master was originally a kind elder. Although she was somewhat arrogant because of her strength, she was very kind by nature. Senior sister Bing Ling, your mother, was my master's most beloved disciple. My master was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. She had always treated senior sister Bing Ling as her own daughter. She had devoted almost all of her heart and soul to her. However, my master had never thought that senior sister Bing Ling would betray her for a man and elope with that man. This man was your father, Rong Tian of the Rong family. Nian Bing said with slight anger, What do you mean by betrayal? Your ice god tower's rule of not allowing disciples to marry outsiders is against the natural law. Is love also wrong? Frozen Cloud sighed. She said, You don't understand. My master once said that if you want to become a true powerhouse, you have to pay a price. Before every disciple of the Ice God Tower joins the Ice God Tower, my master will ask them about their wishes. Only when they sincerely agree to the rules of the Ice God Tower can they officially become disciples of the Ice God Tower. She will never force them. Since they have already chosen to join the Ice God Tower, how can they betray it? They have violated the rules of the Ice God Tower. They have to be punished. My master didn't do anything wrong. Perhaps senior sister Bing Ling didn't do anything wrong either. At this moment, she suddenly understood why Bing Ling betrayed the Ice God Tower. The cramping pain in her stomach became more and more intense. Bing Yun's heart became more and more clear. She deeply felt the taste of love. Nian Bing asked, Get to the point. I don't want to hear you explain anything for your master. I just want to know how my parents are now. Bing Yun nodded and said, After senior sister Bing Ling was caught by my master and brought back to the Ice God Tower, my master wanted to punish her severely. However, after so many years of feelings, how could it be so easy to see through them? Not only did my master not punish senior sister, she even imparted her understanding of magic to her, hoping that senior sister would realize her mistake. However, senior sister fell too deep. She even gave up on cultivation. Every day, she would only silently say two names, which are you and your father's names. I heard these things from Annie Bing Ling because I was still very young at that time. Later, your father actually took you to the Ice God Tower to cause trouble when my master was preparing to pass on her mantle. When senior sister saw your father, she seemed to have forgotten everything. At that time, she actually took the initiative to give up on inheriting my master's mantle and wanted to escape with your father. It wasn't until then that my master was completely disappointed in my senior sister. In her anger, she dealt a heavy blow. You were lucky to have used a spatial magic scroll to escape. Later, senior brother Bing Lu, who was in charge of chasing you, came back and said that you had fallen into the river and died. From that day onwards, my master's mood became very strange for a long time. She would fly into a rage at the slightest movement. When I grew up, I understood that my master was sad. Senior sister Bingling's betrayal was too big a blow to her. However, senior sister and your father were indeed not dead. Although my master hated them to the core, she couldn't be ruthless to senior sister, who she treated like her own daughter. Thus, she used powerful ice magic to seal them in the ice hell of the Ice God Tower. It was an ice cage that had been sealed with a powerful seal by their master. Every day, there would be someone who would bring them food. This prison lasted for nearly 10 years. I once secretly went to see them. Senior sister Bingling and your father didn't seem to be affected by being imprisoned. They were just cultivating in silence, resisting the cold currents of the ice hell. Unknowingly, tears flowed down Yin Bing's face. That's right, they can finally be together. Although they were imprisoned together, they are still together. Bing Yin, thank you for telling me this. Where's the ice hell? Bing Yin, what's wrong with you? Why are you sweating so much? Yin Bing finally realized that something was wrong with Bing Yun. At the same time, he suddenly felt a faint pain in his lower abdomen. He was now a dragon, so he couldn't feel any pain. The sudden pain caused his expression to change. He pointed at Bing Yun and said, You poison me? Bing Yun said mournfully, This is also why I said yes to you just now. Even if I tell you now that I regret it, I'm afraid you won't believe me. It's already too late. Don't worry, Master will never kill your parents. The time limit I told you before was a lie. I put the fruit you just picked in the soup. It should be poison. Let's die together. Nian Bing resisted the pain in his lower abdomen and said hatefully, Even if I violated you that day, I've been taking care of you these past few days. Don't tell me you still can't forget your hatred? No, I won't die. I still have to save father and mother. I will definitely die. A multicolored radiance lit up. The heaven's eye domain completely covered him in Bing Yun, the most effective light element to dispel evil, and all negative auras lit up. A milky white radiance enveloped the two of them. Nian Bing relied on his powerful mental power to directly send the light element to his lower abdomen. Just as Nian Bing was urging the light element to expel the poison in his body, Bing Yun, who was already prepared for death, suddenly discovered in astonishment that the pain in her lower abdomen was gradually weakening. A warm current rushed over, invading her meridians. Under the comfort of that scorching hot feeling, her whole body felt indescribably comfortable. Her fair skin flushed red, and her gaze became somewhat blurred. The desire buried in the deepest part of her heart was aroused by that warm current. Bingyan suddenly felt very hot. Her body felt as if it was burning, and a strange feeling unceasingly rose from within. Nian Bing urged the light element into his lower abdomen. Under the effect of the large amount of light element, the pain quickly disappeared. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, the same feeling as frozen cloud appeared. A scorching heat invaded his meridians. The comfortable feeling made him let out a long sigh. He thought to himself, My luck is really good. I'm afraid that fruit is not only not a poison, but also a tonic. At this moment, his gaze turned to Bing Yun. He was surprised to find that Bing Yun's charming face was flushed. Her cherry lips were slightly parted, and she was constantly exhaling hot air. Her eyes were misty, and she was looking at him with a blurred gaze. Her delicate body was constantly twisting on the ground. One of her hands was holding her full chest, while the other hand had already lifted her magic robe and inserted into the depths of her thighs, gently caressing them. Her pair of slender, round, and beautiful legs had just entered his eyes. Nian Bing only felt as if his brain had exploded. The previous scorching heat instantly became extremely hot, instantly spreading throughout his body. No matter how strong his mental power was, at this moment, his eyes couldn't leave that moving, delicate body. The strong stimulation made him forget everything. He couldn't even feel his own magic power. Even Oscar's urgent call, through his soul, was naturally filtered out.